episode 5 of Stuck Between a Rock and a Bald Spot. Rocco, you ever hear of a cool game called The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion?
No, what's that?
Let me tell you. Nah, so we've been playing the hell out of that game. You definitely more so than me. Jesus.
Yeah, so it's been out, what, 5 days?
Yeah, it shadow dropped on Tuesday.
Which was the 22nd, right?
Yes, sir. 22nd
All right. As of recording,
of April.
right now, it's the 27th. I mean, at least currently. By the end of the recording, it may not be the 27th still. We might be here for a month or so. In that time frame, I have put in roughly 45 hours. I added all my character playtimes up, and it's about 45 hours.
Which is a lot.
And then my like Xbox client or browser, I don't know what you want to call it. The app, the Xbox app on the PC says that I've played for 2.1 days, but it counts the game being open. So if I ever paused it and like walked away, like to use the bathroom, it's counting that time. So actual playtime about 48 hours.
Oh, I forgot
hours,
you got it on Game Pass, right? Like
yeah,
you didn't buy it.
So I got it on Game Pass. Yep.
That makes sense.
What about
Yeah,
you?
I bought it.
Oh, yeah.
I bought it on Steam because I don't know. I wanted to support them because I really, really want to Fallout 3 remastered.
So
We're probably gonna get it though. Dude, the game is fucking slamming. Okay, so they
True.
shadow dropped it, which, if you're not familiar with terms, means they did zero marketing. They did not market it at all. People thought they were gonna drop it on Monday without saying a fucking single thing, much to Daniel's dismay.
yeah, exactly. There's
They
a whole thing there.
they ended up announcing that they had an announcement the following day, so on Tuesday. So 11 a.m. roughly Eastern time zone, they dropped it suddenly during their announcement that they announced. So it is already sailed past 120,000 concurrent players. As of when I was getting my research, so like an hour ago, 171,000 players concurrently were playing it. Which for a remaster of a 20-year-old game is pretty insane. And so they're doing really cool shit with this too, so like I thought it was weird they're calling this a remastered instead of like a remake or something, because usually remastered means like, hey, we're gonna up the 720p graphics to 1080p, and then they slap a $60 price tag on it and just, like, ship it out. It's a horrible practice. So what they're actually doing, the original engine is like on the base layer, and then they slapped Unreal Engine 5 on top, and so Unreal Engine 5's reading the original engine. So
That's kind of sick.
It is kind of sick. And I don't understand it at all. But the end product is fucking great. They like touched up all kinds of stuff. It's like there's new mechanics. The graphics are gorgeous. It's like if you told me this was a 20-year-old game, I'd call you a liar. But they have moved 4 million copies across all the platforms, even though it is a $50 game. And so this is PC, PS5, Xbox, and that 4 million does also count Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you can get it for free.
Perfect.
So a good chunk of those probably could be from Game Pass, but historically speaking, and especially, I mean, I just pointed out that 171 concurrently are playing it on Steam. Historically speaking, there's less gamers on Xbox than on PC, definitely, but also than PlayStation. So while a few of those probably are Game Pass and Xbox, not all of them are. I wouldn't even say half of them make up, and that's adding Game Pass and Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard metric to what am I trying to say here? It's a hard metric to measure when you only have the numbers for like Steam.
True. Yeah, because Sony and Xbox don't really until they do, they don't really put out the numbers.
I mean, they're definitely tracking it, I'm pretty sure, but they definitely just don't put their numbers out there. I'm sure if you're an investor, you could probably get a hold of those numbers somehow. The company that made that game, though, do you know anything about them?
Virtuous, they're kind of known for doing remasters,
right? And so they've got another big one coming up this year, actually, which is Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Oh yeah, I forgot they were doing that.
Yeah, so they're doing that one, and then they did something else recently. I'm trying to find where it is, but they've worked on a bunch of games. They worked on the Outer Worlds. They worked on Dark Souls Remastered. That's the one. They did Dark Souls Remastered. I guess that wasn't that recent.
BioShock.
Yeah, BioShock Remastered. So they've been working on things for a while. I think they just did Age of Mythology also. I think it either just came out or was just announced or something like that. But they have, or it didn't just come out, but they did it at some point. I don't remember exactly. I saw it recently. Oh yeah, Age of Mythology Retold 2024. So it just dropped last year. So they've been doing a lot. They take a lot of older games and remaster them and bring them up to date. And so I think it's interesting that most of these projects have been like public, like we've known about them. Like, I mean, when was Metal Gear Solid Delta announced? Like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
it was a while at least. I think it was
been like rumored for a while, and then I think like when I started playing Metal Gear Solid 3, they like officially announced it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it was only like last year they announced it, or like maybe end of 2023, perhaps.
Something like that. Yeah.
But Virtuous was working on that, but at the same time, I guess they were also working on Oblivion to no one's knowledge, and the fact that it was kept secret for as long as it was is actually quite impressive. There's been a ton of leaks, and we basically have known it was coming for like the last, I don't know, I'd say like 3 years at least. Maybe not quite that long, but like it feels like 3 years. Like it feels like a while we've known about a
so shit got real when the court case happened that Microsoft was involved in.
Right.
So they ended up having to spill the beans with the court documents. So it's been rumored for a while, and then that happened, and people were like, "Oh, well, it's definitely coming at some point, or at least
and then,
was coming."
You know, all the leaks we discussed last week in last week's episode. Yeah. So I mean, we knew it was coming. It was kind of crazy that it showed up as like out of the blue, basically, when it did, and they picked a great window to launch it. I think. They only launched it against one of their own games. Which what was that game called again? Expedition 33, something like that.
Yeah, Clear Obscure Expedition 33.
Apparently that game's sick as shit, and people are a little upset that it didn't get any recognition because Oblivion's been the only thing anyone's been playing. So if you haven't checked that game out, yeah, Legend has it. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Let us know if it's cool. I actually did download it on my PC, and I'm planning on playing it at some point just to try it anyway, because everyone says it was cool that have played it.
It's turn-based, not my cup of tea, so I will take your word for it.
Yeah, well, it's more like Final Fantasy turn-based, right? Not like Pokemon.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, so generally in Final Fantasy games, there's like it's not like I don't want to say all Final Fantasy games, but some of the newer ones, it's turn-based, but you can move around during like the whole time, and then you have like a bar. I think Final Fantasy, I want to say 9 started this system where you have a bar that fills up for like, it's like your character's attack bar, and when it's full you can attack, and then your enemies can attack whenever, and it's technically turn-based, but it's more like you have actions and you can't take an action until your bar is filled. And so in that sense, it's not like Pokemon turns where it's I go, you go, I go, you go, I go, you go. It's like the enemy can go, and if his bar fills faster, he can go again, and then I can go as soon as my bar fills. So I don't know. I only watched a little bit of it, and I didn't actually see any of the turn-based stuff. I just watched like some cutscenes.
Yeah,
but I think it's a little more like new.
I think it's somewhere in between both of those. I think it's a little bit more interactive than Pokemon's,
but
I don't think you can like full on walk around in between turns.
Okay, because there's a lot of turn-based games coming out recently that are more like where you can walk around or move during combat, and there's some of them where like it doesn't make sense to move around. I'm trying to think of what game that is, but there's this one game where at some point, I think it's Dragon Quest. Yeah, it is Dragon Quest 11. Goose would know more about this. There's a mode where you can start moving your character around, but like it doesn't make any, like there's no reason to move your character around at all during the combat. In fact, you can turn it off. You can turn that setting off. But you can move around during combat, but it doesn't, like there's no reason to, because anytime you queue an attack to attack someone, your character will automatically move over to them and attack, or the enemy will move to you and attack you no matter where you move to. So it's like cool, I guess. You can make it more cinematic for people who are into that, but I don't know. We're getting a little off track. Cinema. We're trying to talk about Oblivion.
True.
It's your first time playing it. What do you think?
Essentially, dude, I really like it actually. So I did dabble in it for like somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour years ago, like probably within the first year Skyrim released. I played Skyrim. That was my first Elder Scrolls. Loved it. I was like, I'd always heard high praise of Oblivion, so I was like, oh, let me try out the previous game. That was very hard to do. I usually can play an older game as long as the mechanics are okay. And I think had I started with Oblivion then played Skyrim, it wouldn't be as jarring to go backwards again back to Oblivion, as opposed to starting with Skyrim and then going to Oblivion. So much shit was different, and I just couldn't. I like I said, like 30 minutes to an hour. I know I got out of the sewer.
The tutorial.
I don't think. Yeah, I did the tutorial, and I don't think I did much after that.
It's such a shame because it's such a good game, and I mean, I guess you know that now. I don't think it aged well. It didn't age well. Like right now, it's not like the original Oblivion didn't age well even today. And I think that what made it so difficult is there's a lot of reading. Not as much reading as Morrowind, but there's a lot of reading.
I can't read.
Exactly. And then some of the systems they've did a really good job streamlining the systems, not in a way like Sky. So it's interesting to say this because it still feels like Oblivion, even though they've streamlined the systems. Like they changed leveling, they changed some certain other things, like they added sprinting, for instance, and they changed how certain skills level up. In the original version of Oblivion, to raise your restoration to 100, you would say, let's just say you don't pick restoration as a major skill, right? So it's not one of your 7 major skills. It doesn't get any benefit. You haven't picked magic as your specialty, so it doesn't get a bonus there. And you're playing a race that doesn't have a bonus to restoration skill levels, right? So those are how you get your base skills up higher when you're making a new character.
Which races do? Like the elf races, right? They're usually magic people.
They are usually magic. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I know Imperial gets +5 to restoration.
Oh, okay.
I never memorized all those. I would always just look them up because there's no point in you just power level everything. So in the original game, I think it takes something like 8,000 casts of any restoration spell to hit level 100 skill level. And
it's a lot of casting.
Yeah, well, the animation took forever. So there was this exploit where you would block, because when you're blocking, you could cast faster. And that would cut the animation in half, basically. So it basically half the time you were, it took you, but you'd still cast it like 10 times, then you have to rest and wait for your magic to come back and then cast it 10 times. And and it took forever. But the way the leveling worked then, it was a per cast. So you wanted the cheapest spell you could cast, so you could cast it 8,000 times quicker.
Yeah.
In the remaster, it's more like a remake than a remaster, honestly.
It honestly is.
They have changed it so that the cost of the spell affects how you level things up, and that's actually not how base Skyrim launched, but that is how Skyrim operates now for the most part. I believe when base Skyrim launched, it wasn't weighted like that. Maybe it was, but there was like that's why in Skyrim the original strategy for smithing was to make iron daggers, because you could just buy a bunch of iron and then make like, I don't know, 1,000 daggers. And the thing is back then, like when Skyrim first launched, it was the same way. It was set up so that each time you did the action, that was like one experience, right? And then they eventually changed Skyrim so that the value of the item you were making correlated to how much experience you got. So the more value the item had, the more experience you got. So if you made something like a gold diamond pendant, that's worth like 1,200, right? And so when you make that was like a level guaranteed, basically, smithing in Skyrim. And so they copied that system into Oblivion. So it's kind of interesting to see how they've updated and streamlined it, and like they've borrowed from Skyrim, but they didn't go the same way as Skyrim, because in my opinion, original Oblivion to Skyrim is just like watered down and kind of dumbed down in a way that it's not unsatisfying to play, but it's really, it took a lot of like I don't know, the intricacies out of leveling and out of planning your builds. And in that sense, I feel like Skyrim is kind of like a muted
that makes sense. Like it took
experience.
the role playing aspect out of it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well,
and like streamlined it, just made it more easy to get into.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that they really did a good job with it though, because the way that leveling works now in Oblivion is you get the 12 virtues, right? And in the original Oblivion, every time you got a skill up that was under an attribute, you'd get half a point towards that attribute. So say you're working on speed, right?
Yeah.
The speed skill. I think I explained this already, but say you're working on the speed skill and you want to get your speed to 100, right? That means there were 3 skills associated with speed. I believe it was acrobatics, light armor maybe, and athletics. I think it's those 3.
Okay.
I might be wrong about light armor. But so those are your speed skills, okay? And you have to level those up to, like, so you'd have to get 10 level ups across those 3 skills so that when you actually level up your character, you could you'd have a multiplier on your speed. So if you spent a point on speed, because you got to choose 3 stats or attributes every time you leveled, just like the new game, and that's how you get your +5 in speed. But you had to get 10 skill ups in the speed tree per level. And so the thing is if, say you raise your acrobatics 20 levels and you level up twice, like, so you level up, you have enough to level up because you've raised your acrobatics 20 times, right? And then you level up, you get it still caps at +5 for speed, but then you have another level up, so you level up right after that without doing anything, and you only have a +1 to every stat. Whereas in the new game, there's the 12 virtues no matter what. It doesn't matter what skills you level up. If you have a level up, you get 12 points, and you get to distribute those how you see fit, which is a huge change, because there was a lot of min-max like BS going on in the original game, where you wouldn't want to level up skills, and if you leveled up a skill accidentally, it's like, okay, well, I accidentally leveled up speechcraft, now I have to level it up 9 more times so I can get the +5 in personality. But that means that I can't level up other skills, right? So you would be you'd be really careful about what you were leveling up, and then athletics would pop randomly, unexpectedly, and you're like, well, shit, now I have leveled too many times and I just lost a skill point. So you would end up with max level characters who would have different stats from other, like your attributes would be different from other players, because there was like a perfect, there's like a perfect way to level up, and then there was just like the random way. Now you can just dump points wherever you want. And I think that overall was a good change. It makes it more streamlined. It makes it more accessible to people who are unwilling to do the math or to learn how to do the perfect class, because it would start with your character. You pick the perfect race, you pick the perfect backstory. They're calling it origins now. You pick those two things perfectly. Then you would pick the perfect skill and you'd build the perfect class, and you pick the perfect sign. And that's how you would plan. You'd start planning your leveling there. And then you would level your skills in a particular order every level. And people would plan out, like, this level, I'm going to level these skills precisely. Next level, these skills precisely. And they'd already have their points, like what they wanted to do. Because if you didn't plan it like that, you were going to make a mistake, and you were going to have an underpowered character by the time you hit max level. And so I think them addressing that really lowered the bar for a lot of people to enter into the game and enjoy it.
Yeah, at least definitely like enjoy it. I agree with that. Dude, honestly, Virtuous deserves a fucking medal, accommodation, platinum vinyl record, YouTube,
exactly.
Play button. Dude, they deserve
YouTube
fucking everything for their handling of this remake.
It's
because it's phenomenal.
It really
because
is.
They tweaked just enough from the original to make it a little bit easier to digest, like without tarnishing how good the original game was. And I think that's a testament to their skill as developers. So fucking hats off to them.
True.
They did phenomenal.
Well, it's funny too, because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's like perks for each skill. So when you're at 0, you have no perks for a skill.
Yes,
25 is your first perk, 50 is your second, 75 is your third, and 100 is your last perk. In the original game, there were perks, same way, same system. 25 you get one, 50 you get one, 75 you get one, 100 you get one. It would pop up a little message saying what it did. There wouldn't be bold words explaining exactly what it does. Virtuous added the pop-up. They put bold on, like, hey, this raises this, or this does this. There'd be some flavor text, and then there's bold words saying exactly what it does. In the original game, there wasn't that. The text would pop. I mean, basically says the same thing, but the text bubble would pop, and if you closed it, get fucked, because there's nowhere to look at that anywhere in the game. That you would have to look it up online, because it doesn't say it anywhere. It's like you can't, and you already hit the level up. So the only way to see it on your own game again is to either reload your save and hit that skill up again, or you'd have to level another character in that skill to see what it does. And
dude, what a different time.
Yeah, and so that's crazy. The thing. Like, now in the current remaster, you can just look at the perks anytime you want to, and that's such a nice change. You can even look at them if you don't know what they are. Like before, if you hadn't reached that level, you just didn't know what the perk was. You had no idea. I will say some of the perks are different. Actually, most of them are different. Well, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of them are different. Acrobatics, for instance. I think at 25 acrobatics, you could cast while you were jumping, like cast spells. And then I think at 50, you could attack while you were jumping. And that's like one of those things that's really weird. But now at 25, you get a dodge. And I don't remember what 50 does, but...
Yeah, the dodge is cool, because that wasn't in the original game.
Right. Well,
I saw that.
Right, exactly. And neither was sprinting. And so I don't remember, but at 100 acrobatics, you can jump along the surface of water as if it was ground, which is kind of cool. It as long as you don't submerge in the water, you can jump across the surface of it, and that's pretty cool. And I don't think that was in the original game. I don't remember though, because usually by the time I had 100 acrobatics, I would just have water walking spells also. So I would just water walk, and it was faster to run across the top of water than to jump across it. So I don't know. Maybe that was in the game. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it wasn't, and it was, but I don't remember it. Of course, how often are you hitting 100 acrobatics, right?
Also, not to mention, it was 20 years ago. Not that you last played it 20 years ago, but I'm sure
The last
it's
time,
probably been at least 10.
well, the last time I got a character to 100 acrobatics was probably before Skyrim came out.
Okay,
So
that's fair.
yeah, it's been a while.
So where would you place original Oblivion, Skyrim, and Oblivion Remastered?
In like
terms of like least favorite to favorite.
Morrowind's my favorite.
Didn't ask my Morrowind.
I know, but Morrowind's the best one. So it's a hot take, but it's not a hot take. People who have played Morrowind really love Morrowind because it was, I mean, for a lot of people, it was the first game like that they played. And without Morrowind, we don't have Oblivion, we don't have Skyrim, we don't have Fallout 3.
True.
And for me, Morrowind had a lot of it was like almost too ambitious.
I think still to this day, it's one of the biggest game maps, isn't it?
No, that's Daggerfall. Daggerfall is the second one.
Oh, Daggerfall. Okay.
Morrowind's map is smaller than Oblivion's map, but it felt bigger because there were so many load zones and you get stuck and have to wait, and it had long loading times. Like you accidentally went in that door and you didn't mean to, well, get fucked. You're going to be sitting there for 5 minutes because you have to wait 2.5 minutes for it to load the interior of the house. And then you have to turn around and go out and wait another 2.5 minutes for it to load the exterior. It was kind of hard to play because of all the load times. And to be fair, Oblivion was like that too. Even early Skyrim had long load times. We really take for granted how quick things load now, which is kind of nice because the Oblivion remaster loads quickly. But Morrowind had so many systems and things that I would say Oblivion is like a watered down Morrowind.
Yeah.
But I think when they moved from Morrowind to Oblivion, the way they streamlined things was pretty good. Morrowind had like essentially the same level up system, but there were more skills. So there's like spears. They had a marksman skill instead of I guess it's still called marksman in Oblivion. But that was like, it had like throwing knives in it and throwing spears and like ninja stars and throwing axes. And so it had a lot of different weapons in it. And then there was like a spears skill where you could have spears, which they've just completely removed spears altogether in Oblivion. And then they're not in Skyrim either. And then in Morrowind, they had long sword. It was like a skill, and then short sword was like a skill. But then like there's an axe skill and a blunt skill, and they've kind of like condensed all those skills into fewer. So in Oblivion, I think in Morrowind there's like 28 skills, and in Oblivion there's 21. I'm not exact on that number on Morrowind. And then in Skyrim, I think there's still 21. They moved them around a little. They got rid of some schools of magic, which was the other thing. In Morrowind, there was like, I think there was a necromancy school of magic, and then they kind of moved those sort of spells into conjuration in Oblivion. And then Oblivion has mysticism, which when you move into Skyrim, it's just gone completely. And the mysticism spells have been moved into the other schools of magic. And so those sort of changes make sense because Morrowind was so ambitious. It would be kind of like if Elder Scrolls 6 is a dumbed down Skyrim, though, like it's just gonna be awful for the franchise.
It is.
So to answer your question, I would put Morrowind first, and then I would put original Oblivion. Well, this remaster is really good. Actually, I might put Morrowind, then the remaster, then the original Oblivion, and then Skyrim. Yeah, I think that's how I'd put it. Okay. Morrowind, I know I just was singing the praises of Morrowind. Morrowind did not age well. Not nearly as well as Oblivion aged. And to be fair, Oblivion didn't really age very well either. The remaster really makes it feel like it aged well. But they did such a good job making the game feel like more modern while keeping its like original charm. Even Skyrim didn't age well. Skyrim feels really dated. If you go back and play Skyrim, you're like, damn, there's like 5 animations. And like for like attacking, there's like 5 animations, and it's like, damn, this kind of sucks. This is not amazing. Maybe if you haven't played it for over 2,000 hours like I have, it looks better. I don't know.
I haven't played that much, and that's something I definitely noticed. But I feel like there's enough flavor in the world to make you look past it. I think. By the way, so I looked it up. Daggerfall. So the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall is around the size of the UK in real life. So I think ignoring Arena, it is 161,000 kilometers. And that is fucking insane. This game released in 1996.
Okay, but
Okay.
let me temper what you're saying though. Don't think of it being like Skyrim, where while you're walking through the world, there's something to look at here, there's something to look at there, there's all this stuff. Oh, here's an enemy. Daggerfall is, for the most part, you're supposed to play the game by letting your character
Blindfolded?
move. Well, yeah, it's more like Oregon Trail, right? You're supposed to let your character like proceed to a city, and there's like story and stuff that happens, from my understanding. And then you can just walk it instead of traveling from one city to the next. You can walk the distance if you really felt like it, but for the most part, it's just flat, open, empty, nothing. You ever play the original Doom?
Yes.
Okay, well, it kind of looked graphically like that. And so there'd be like trees and stuff, and like, I don't know, it was just kind of like there's like large expanses of just nothing, and there's no enemies, there's no loot, there's no landmarks. It's just flat and trees. And so yes, the map is huge, but it's also kind of like
It's empty.
it's yeah, it's very, very empty.
Okay.
So, you know, temper your expectations. It's a huge map, but it's kind of boring.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
But like that's the ambition that they had when they are making the earlier Elder Scrolls games. Like the biggest map, it's still one of the biggest maps ever. Do you have a list of the biggest maps ever? So I don't think there's that many games that have made a bigger map than that. Technically Minecraft is bigger because it's an infinite map.
I don't think that counts.
But yeah, well, it's hard to say who has but the thing is like, who has the biggest map that's like fleshed out, right?
Yeah, like playable, like there's actually stuff to look at.
I think even I think Skyrim was big enough that there's some areas in Skyrim that it's like, this is just kind of like an open field. Like it's okay that it's an open field because there's not that many of them, but there's nothing going on here.
So Elite Dangerous is a full-sized map of the Milky Way. I'm guessing to scale.
Okay, but that's like a spaceship game, and I don't know. Most of it's empty also. You know, like,
That's fair.
how many planets are there? I mean, there's asteroids, I guess, but
So then I guess probably Microsoft Flight Simulator.
because it's the world.
Yeah, it's literally a to scale size map of Earth. Yeah. I mean, so stuff like Minecraft's on there, No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
They even threw Starfield, which that one's debatable.
So my thing about No Man's Sky and Starfield is, yes, technically, most of the planets or whatever in both of those are largely uninhabited. Yes, there's some interesting things here and there because it's I almost feel like they use like procedural generation, and then they're like, hey, just throw some fucking landmarks in there, I guess. It's one of those things that those are so compartmentalized that it doesn't feel like a big map.
Yeah.
You know, you land on a planet and you only travel so far on that planet, and maybe the area you move around in is bigger than Skyrim, but like you don't actually, it's not as fleshed out as Skyrim, right? There might be like a base here and a base there, but it's mostly just empty land that you're trying to traverse as quickly as possible. And so I think that's why Elder Scrolls have so much like mystique, because like I was saying, Skyrim's got some empty fields, but for the most part it rewards you for exploring. And Oblivion was really good about that. There's so many little secret there's so many little secret what are they called, like, I don't know, not like lore, but like there's like little Easter eggs, and there's little like loot spots and little treasures and stuff tucked away all over the map. So like, even if you go off the path and you're just picking flowers or something, you're gonna run into something that's interesting. Yeah. And if you don't, you're gonna just run into the next like town or something. So like, there's always something. There's, you know, unless you're running against the edge of the world where there's literally nothing for the most part, which I don't recommend doing. It's not fun. There's just always something there to explore and to find.
Signs of a good game.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to another good game. Resident Evil 4 remake just hit a pretty impressive milestone. So they just officially passed 10 million units sold.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Which is a lot. So the game came out in 2023. So only, 2 years to hit that milestone. Something to note, they just hit 9 million units sold earlier this year. So they just sold another million in less than a year.
It's interesting that it's selling so well, because it came out when?
In 2023.
Okay. So it's been out for over a year, obviously. Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And for it to be still selling like that, like, it's a single player game. There's no multiplayer of any sort. Like, there's no... I mean, there's replayability, I suppose, but there's no longevity there, you know? It's not like Call of Duty. Well, maybe that's not a good example, because there's a new Call of Duty every year. It's not like Battlefield, for instance, where you get on and you're playing with your friends or whatever.
Well, compared to Elder Scrolls, like there's no like class system or like, doing like, there's no like quests.
Exactly.
It's a single player linear game. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things though that players like to do, that thing where they will impose. I think the reason is that Resident Evil 4 is such a good game that people will do things like self-imposed challenges, like, hey, I only want to use the knife this run, or I'm only going to use a shotgun, or I'm going to use everything but the shotgun, or whatever stupid run you're going to do. I'm not going to loot anything, right? You start doing these like these challenges or whatever, and I think that has a lot of appeal. But like I said, there's no like longevity, because the game doesn't do that for you. You do that because you enjoy the game, right? But the game has to be good, because if the game's not good, people don't do that.
Yeah, they're not gonna go out of their way to find they're like, okay, well, I love the game, but I know the story like the back of my hand, so let me throw this spin on it to make it more appealing.
Exactly.
Because they don't want to stop playing it. So it sold 6.48 million units in its first year.
Wow.
Which is insane to compare that to Elder Scrolls, because we just went over the fact that it sold 4 million units in its first week. Not even a full week.
Yeah, well, so that is crazy, but Oblivion, I think most people have Oblivion in their top 10 games of all time. Like, I just, some people might replace it with Skyrim, and that's faded, but I mean, if you want to do that, go ahead. I think Resident Evil 4 might be on people's top 10 list too. For me, I would put it a little lower though. I'd put it like 15 or something. But Oblivion's definitely in the top 10, and it's such a beloved game, and for a lot of people is their first like RPG. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos of people talking about, oh, this is the first time I played whatever, blah blah blah. Resident Evil 4 is the it's funny though, because they're both the fourth game in their franchises. Resident Evil 4, I think at a base value, Resident Evil 4 is not as valuable. Does that make sense? It has less replayability, and as far as the story goes, like you said, it's linear. There's only like the one story. Whereas Oblivion, there's a bunch of different stories. You get to make your own character. You get to like, and when you can make your own character, that there's so many role playing things. People do their own self-imposed like things in Oblivion too. But I think the huge difference here is that Resident Evil 4 released at full price of a full price game. I believe it was $60 when it launched. Correct?
That sounds right. Yeah.
I don't think it's still $60, but Oblivion released at $50. And I think in terms of the franchises, Oblivion might just be more popular in general. So the difference in numbers makes sense. Not that Resident Evil 4 is doing bad or it's a bad game, but I just think it has less to offer, and therefore less people are willing to buy it again or buy it for the first time.
No, Resident Evil 4 Remake launched at 40.
Okay, well, good for them. They were charging under retail for a full game.
Wait a minute, sorry, I just lied.
Oh.
No, it was a $60 release.
Oh, okay, well there you go.
Sorry, the first thing I read said it was 40. That might have been like a sale price or something, like when they first lowered the price. So sorry, yeah, it did launch at 60.
Okay. So
70 for PS5.
Okay.
Do you really think that has something to do with it? I mean, well, probably a little bit.
I think it has more to do with Oblivion selling well than that game selling well.
Not selling as well.
Yeah. So the other thing is Oblivion's on Game Pass, right? A lot of people already have Game Pass. One of the biggest selling points of Xbox is Game Pass. In fact, the only reason Xbox moves consoles most of the time is because of Game Pass. So I don't know. I just think it's the reputations, and if you look at the numbers for the original Resident Evil 4 versus the original Oblivion, I bet the disparity is almost as vast. Because while Resident Evil 4 is an amazing game and the remake is really good, I don't know. I will say,
I mean, it's a single player game versus an RPG. It definitely makes sense.
I will say I was a little disappointed that they re-recorded all the voice lines for Resident Evil 4. I think I've talked about this before also. It might have been in episode 0, so sorry if you've never seen that. They really changed the voices, and like they changed some of the stuff, and I don't think the changes they made in Resident Evil 4, I personally wasn't the biggest fan of them. It overall, they didn't really affect the story or the game at all. It's just like a personal like pet peeve sort of thing that they changed. You grow up hearing the sounds of the game, and you've played it so many times, and you hear the sounds, and then you expect to hear the sounds in the remake, and they're not there. Which is maybe why Oblivion is doing well, because while they added some voice actors for some variety in Oblivion, because I think the original cast of Oblivion was like 12 people or something. It was not many. It might have been less than 10. Mostly because all the budget went to
most of those Bethesda games are like that though. Fallout's the same way.
Most of the budget went to the story voice actors. If you know what I'm talking about, he hasn't gotten to it yet, so I don't want to spoil it for him. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Would you say like Uriel Septim, for instance, the king? You know who that is?
Yeah, it's Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, it's Patrick Stewart. So I think they blew a lot of their budget on getting Patrick Stewart and that other guy. So they didn't have much budget left to hire other voice actors, so all the voices were the same. And so I wanted to hear those same voices that I've always heard, right? Like that's what I want to hear. But then they hired new voice actors, and they recorded the same lines, the same dialogue, everything. And they had the new voice actors like match the cadence, and they had them match like the way they spoke. And so it would be like the same amount of time as the other recording, so that they could, it doesn't affect the dialogue. So if you ask one guard and he has the old voice, and you ask a different guard and he's got one of the newer voices, it doesn't affect the dialogue. So your experience across both of those is the same, but you're hearing a different voice. And so I think they did a really good job with that, because, you know, instead of just always hearing, halt, you violated the law, now there's like, halt, you violated the law, but it's like the same length, right? And so because of that, I think they did a really effective job of adding new voices into the game without like stagnating it or without completely changing it. And people who are nostalgic for the old voices still get that like scratched, whichever, however you say that.
Exactly. Itch scratched.
Yeah. And so Resident Evil 4 was a true remake in the sense that they rebuilt the game, and so they re-recorded everything, and you know, that's fine. That was just one of my beefs with it, but I mean, it's selling well. So
ironically, and I don't think it's going to go this way this time based off the numbers currently, but something kind of interesting. So Resident Evil 4, including all versions, which is GameCube, PS2, Wii, etc., sold approximately 13.6 million units worldwide. So they're only 3.6 million shy in a re-release, which is cool.
That is pretty cool.
However, Oblivion only racked up 9.5 million, which is crazy.
In original sales? Interesting.
So and in comparison, Skyrim was 40 million. However, Skyrim was re-released across 2 generations of consoles. So
3 generations.
They've put that out. It's true. Yeah, it is 3 generations now. They have put that out on any and everything they possibly fucking could. There was memes where you could play it on a Samsung smart refrigerator. So
I was really, this is something that I thought of, that I so there's a meme where like a screen will fade to black and then it unfades and it's the beginning of Skyrim, right? Oh, you're finally awake, right? I was kind of really hoping that when you launched Oblivion for the first time and you hit new, that it would do the fucking Skyrim thing.
Oh,
dude, it would fucking fade and then it would open up and it'd be like, oh, you're finally awake, and then it would just like cut that and then you'd be actually playing Oblivion. Like it would do the actual Oblivion one. I really wanted them to put that in there because I think that would have been fucking hilarious. You launch the game for the first time and you're like, oh dude, I'm ready to play Oblivion again, dude. It's gonna be so good. I love Oblivion. And then it's like Todd Howard walks out onto the stage and he's like, ha, got you. You just bought Skyrim again, dumb bitch. Dude, I would have killed if they had put that in the game.
That would have been funny.
Dude, it would have been so good. I think a lot of people would have been pissed because they wouldn't have made it through the session, and they would have refunded their game, unfortunately. But like, dude,
so
release it on April 1st or something, dude. Anything, honestly, dude. I have no idea what they could have done, but if they had done that, I would have loved if they had done something like that.
That would have been really funny. I don't know if any games have really ever done like a meme-worthy opening like that. I'm sure at some point they probably maybe like a small indie game or something, but
yeah, it's just like one of those things. Like you launch the game for the first time, it says Oblivion, which, to be fair, the new, I don't know if you ever played, you didn't play, well, you said you did play the original Oblivion. The original menu for Oblivion was not that fucking cool.
Makes sense.
The hero of Kvatch standing in front, well, I assume that's who that is, standing in front of the Oblivion logo on fire is like so hard for absolutely no reason. Like there's
with the music fucking blaring.
Yeah, they had no reason to make it that awesome, but they're just like, fuck it, we do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really enjoying Oblivion.
We're supposed to be talking about Resident Evil, by the way.
We are supposed to be talking about Resident Evil. Sorry, RE. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, there is a very popular fan theory circulating with the teaser, or from the image, like kind of praising the success. So in this image, it is
this image right here.
This image right there. So as you can see, it is like one of the signs from the village, and there's like writing on the sign. So as you can tell, when it is right side up, there's like a broken piece of wood and then another broken piece of wood in the formation of an X. So people are saying, "Oh my god, that's a teaser for Resident Evil 9."
Yeah, if you rotate it.
If you rotate it to the right, specifically.
Yeah, I can't rotate it on this screen, but just imagine it. Just rotate your head or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Just
it could be
just
an
tilt your
I
head.
and an X.
I personally think that's a reach.
It kind of is.
It could be an eagle-eyed Easter egg teaser.
What if
9,000?
What if you rotate it the other way? Then it's XI, Resident Evil 11.
True. That's my theory.
Maybe Dragon Quest 11.
Which is Capcom, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
That's my theory. They're teasing.
They're teasing Dragon Quest 11. Yeah.
Yep.
That's your
my
theory? Perfect. So the sign actually says, I don't know. I think you can read it on the picture. I don't know how big this is going to be in the final product, but it's like, "Thank you for playing. Gracias por jugar." I don't know what this says. I don't speak whatever that is. But you know, it's the wood that says "Thanks for playing." So like, it's for the players. We got Leon. We've got some pitchfork from the what are those guys called? They're
zombies. No,
they're not zombies though.
What was it? Los something in this one, or was that 5?
No, it was. This one's the Spanish one. This one takes place in Spain, yeah, I think it's Spain.
Was it not fucking Czechoslovakia?
No, it was like Spain or something. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Some Spanish-speaking country. I believe it was Spain.
Los Ganados.
Yeah, the Ganados. Thank you.
Which translates to the cattle in Spanish.
Yeah, and they're the little zombie guys. You know, Resident Evil 4's zombie dogs were some of the scariest things ever as a child.
True.
I always hated the dogs in Resident Evil games because they were in them from the first one.
Yeah. That's true.
Those dogs were so scary. So
4 and 6 are the only games I haven't ever played start to finish.
Which one?
4 and 6. Because I started playing and the first game.
But didn't you play the remake of 4?
No, I haven't yet. I've been waiting to buy it because I didn't want to pay full price for it.
Oh, I thought you had played it.
It's starting to hit $20 now, so I'll get it this year.
Are you sure you didn't play it?
I am 199,000% positive.
I swear I was watching someone play it and I thought it was you. Because I thought you played 2 and I thought you played 4 right after that.
Nope, I played 3.
Well, I know what 3 looks like, and I definitely wasn't 3. I know what 4 looks like too, and I know the parts that I thought you were playing in 4. So if that wasn't you playing 4, I don't know who that was. There's a mystery.
An imposter, I guess.
Yes, there's an imposter. Who was I watching play Resident Evil 4?
No, because when I played 2 and 3, 4 was not out yet.
You haven't played 6 though?
I bought it years ago and I started it, but I did not finish it.
6 was interesting, and I don't even. Do you know if they're remastering it? Because they might not.
So there's a lot of rumors. It might be concrete now. But they remastered. They technically remastered or remade 1, but it wasn't the same style as 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, and 4 are basically like, well, more so 2 and 3 are complete remakes, because 2 and 3 were like the fixed camera angle. It's like you come down a corridor, and the camera is just fixed in one spot.
Yep.
The 2 and 3 remakes,
you can move the camera.
Made it to where you can move your camera. It's like fixed at your shoulder, like modern third person shooters are.
We talked about this last week if you watched the episode.
True.
But 6 was not like that. 6 was more like 5, where you had free control of your camera.
Yeah.
6 has 3 stories in it, and each one is like a third of the game. I really just wanted another Leon Kennedy game. Like, I wanted the whole thing to be Leon Kennedy. So the first part, you are playing as Leon, and it's very similar to 2 in how it plays. You're like in a college or something. I think it's a college, and it's very similar to being in the Raccoon City Police Department. You go around, you collect things, you go back through areas, and then you gain access. You solve puzzles, and you gain access to new areas, yada yada, etc., etc. It's very like the second game, right? Then the next part, you're playing as Chris Redfield, and he's like soldier, right? I'm a soldier. I'm gonna go soldier, and it's
huge
very,
ass balls,
dude. It's like very militaristic. I feel like it's very linear, and it's like actiony. And then the final one you're playing, I don't even remember their names because who the fuck cares about those people? It's like some fucking android guy that's trying to be Albert Wesker 2.0, but he's a robot. And then
he was his son, I thought, right? Or was it just maybe that was my headcanon for that? I don't know.
I don't remember who he was. The important character was the little girl. And that whole I played it through one time. I beat the game, and I was like, this game was shit. I hated it. And at the time, most people thought Resident Evil 5 was the worst one. After playing
6 upped it,
dude. After playing 6, I was like, dude, if it didn't have the Leon parts, 6 would have been the worst game ever of all time. It would be worse than Flappy Bird. I don't think that game was widely regarded as being bad. It was just frustrating.
Yes. So his name is Jake Muller, and he is supposedly the son of Albert Wesker.
I don't know. He was like some android cyborg bullshit, fucking cybernetically enhanced android super soldier, fucking secret serum, zombie fighting killing machine. I don't know. And they're like they're in like some war-torn city in like Russia or some shit. The whole story didn't really make sense to me. In that regard, I really liked how 4 did 2 stories. So in 4, you can play through the whole game as Leon, which you do. But then after you beat it, you unlock Ada's story, and you get to play through her story, which is a little before Leon shows up, and then it's part of when Leon's there. And it gives a lot of background to what Ada was doing on the island, or the wherever you are when the whole thing, Spain.
Well, that's cool. So but the original version of 2 did that first, correct? Well, I guess technically 1 did that first.
1 did that first, because there was a Chris story, and then there was a Jill story.
That's cool. And then 2 did it.
Yeah.
3 did not, though, I don't think, right?
Well, so the original 2 didn't do it.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure about that. I'm pretty sure the original 2, you only played as Leon. And then after you finished the game, there was like another part where you could play as Ada. But in the remake, you could play as Claire or Leon. You looking it up?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to try to.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could be wrong. I played that game a lot though, and I don't ever remember playing as Claire.
Yes, there was always still or there was always 2 campaigns.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it Claire though? Because I feel like
yeah, it was always Claire, which is what I thought. I thought I remembered that being a thing. There was also not really 2 stories, but technically speaking, you could play Resident Evil 5 as your co-op partner. What was her name? Shiva,
right? Yeah, Sheva.
But she's like always with you, and so you get to like if so that was the first game that had co-op, so like you and someone else could play it. But she's like always with you like as an AI, if except for like certain parts.
Yeah.
If you didn't have someone playing split screen with you, which was cool. So they pretty much have always done like at least 2 campaigns.
Yeah,
and then 6 added 3 campaigns.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like 6 was too much, because like I felt like they spent a good amount of time on the Leon campaign. Like it has good progression. You feel like you're doing good. Like you're doing like it's got good progress. Like I don't know. It just felt good. It felt like the traditional. Like 5 was whack, and yours was like more like fighting weird fucking monsters and shit. that weren't zombies. It felt like they really strayed from what Resident Evil was. And so when you're playing 2, it just felt like, 6 as Leon, it felt really good, like 2. But
That makes
then
sense.
in like the second part where you're playing as Chris, it feels really like not great. And I don't know. I feel like I don't remember the game perfectly, but I feel like there are a lot of scenes in it where it's just like, why did they put this in here? I don't care. I don't care about like the world at large. Like, yes, people wanted a game with Chris in it. Yes, people wanted another game with Leon in it. Because I don't think Chris had been in any games as a playable character except for the first one.
And then 5.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
And
Yeah.
I think people didn't like him in 5, and they wanted him to be more like.
Who are you in 3? Claire and
In 3, you're technically Jill the whole time, I believe.
Jill. That's right. Okay.
3.
So allegedly, this is a leak, or rumor. Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0 are supposed to be the 2 next remakes.
Oh yeah. They had some like 2, like some 2.5, like a Resident Evil 2.5. I don't remember what it was called. But it was Resident Evil 2's engine, I believe. And you would play as the people who were in Raccoon City when everything was going to shit. And you'd have like, I think there were like 8 different survivors you could pick and play as. And they all had like different abilities, so to speak. Like if you pick the little girl, she could like get into tight spaces or whatever. And then if you pick like one of the big guys, he could like board up doors and windows and stuff. I don't remember if those were their exact powers. I'm just giving an example. That game was kind of ass though. Not gonna lie.
Damn.
Yeah, and I don't even remember the name of it. My friend and I were really excited because we loved Resident Evil 2. We loved 4. You could probably pass on 3. And we're like, oh yeah, let's get this one. And then we got it, and it was just kind of not great. It was really hard too for like no reason. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. I'm just glad they're not remaking that game because, well, no one even knows what that game's called. I'm sure someone does, but I don't know.
So obviously I never played 0 and Code Veronica either, but I've heard mixed feelings about those games. So I don't know if they remake them, I'll play them. I'll probably get any of the remakes except for 5 and 6. Honestly, I did not like 5. That was like one of the first games I played on my 360, and it just, I don't know. I don't really have fond memories of it. Like not even this in the sense of like it scared me or anything like that. Like it's just a janky game.
5 is one of the first games I ever platinumed on PlayStation.
I am so sorry. Was it a hard platinum?
Not really. My friend and I did it together because you can do the whole game in co-op pretty much.
Yeah.
There's like, you have to collect treasures. I mean, it was not a hard platinum, but it got kind of annoying because I think we had to run through the whole game 3 times, and by the third time I was so done with it.
Anything you miss? Well, could you go back and re-choose chapters?
You could.
Okay.
I think there was like an award though for like, I don't remember what the trophy list was. I'm not gonna try and remember. I just remember that we had to play it like 3 times because it was stupid. That game was not. I didn't like that.
It just
game.
wasn't very fun.
It wasn't fun.
Yeah. I will be getting the 4 remake though. I do really want to play that.
I feel like that game could have been good though. It just wasn't.
So 5 was the first one where they started to try to appeal to not their target demographic, which like I get it. You want to try to make more sales with every new release.
They made it more they made it more like streamlined, I guess.
Yeah, they tried making it more actiony.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking
But
back on it, that game's really clunky. It plays more like Gears of War than it plays like Call of Duty. Um, which I think they were trying to get like the Call of Duty kids into the game. So making it play more like Gears was kind of stupid. I don't. Was there a cover system in that game? I don't actually remember. I
don't remember either.
I just remember really
Maybe?
not liking that game. There's so much like. It's like it wasn't hard. It was just like annoying. Like the whole game was annoying.
Yeah.
And there was like a lot of weird parts where it's like, hey, you have to climb up here and get this thing and then go back down and open a door. And in like Resident Evil 2, for instance, there's sequences where you have to like go collect something and then backtrack. And that's fine. But I felt like when you're backtracking, things would be different or they'd be changed. And they did a really good job with that. Whenever you had to backtrack in 5, it felt like really forced and like, hey, let's put some backtracking in right here.
Yeah.
And it was never very far either. It was like you'd go up a ladder and then you go back down the ladder. It was like, okay, that's stupid.
Yeah. So Indiana Jones.
Ooh.
I have not played this game yet.
Me neither.
I wasn't a huge fan of the movies really. Like I know some people like grew up with them. I might at some point try to get them. Like if they have like a 4K box set, I might try to get them at some point and give them a watch.
The first 3 movies are spectacular. I know you don't like bad special effects, and some of them have bad special effects. The movies
that
are
makes sense. When did the first one come out? Like 80 something?
Yeah, it came out like shortly before or after Star Wars. The first Star. No, maybe it was a little later than that. I don't know. It was 80 sounds right though.
Episode 4 came out in 70 something, 79 probably.
Okay, so I think the first Indiana Jones came out in like 81 then or something like that. You might want to double check that because that's just I wasn't alive, so I'm just guessing. The special effects are not great in the first one.
Raiders of the Lost Ark was 81.
Okay.
Temple of Doom 84. Last Crusade 89.
Okay.
And then they decided to wait years and years. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull 2008, and then Dial of Destiny was 2023.
Okay, well, Dial of Destiny, just go ahead and don't even watch that one. Just skip it.
Perfect.
Doesn't exist. Crystal Skull, I think you would like it all the way up to the end.
Hell yeah. Shia LaBeouf's in that one, isn't he? Or am I making that up?
Yeah,
okay.
he is actually, and I really most people's criticism of that film is Shia LaBeouf. I really liked him in that film. I kind of like Shia LaBeouf in general though, but I really liked him in that film. He was good in that film, and it was like a passing of the mantle, so to speak, the way they did that movie, which they retconned in the 5th one.
Yeah. Perfect.
The ending has some stuff that's just like, okay, I know we dealt with like some crazy shit in the past, like that is supernatural and doesn't make sense, but this is too much. This is too much. This is too far. This is
so it amps
stupid.
up the supernatural. Basically.
Yeah. So have you watched any of them?
I know I assume the first one, Nazis get their faces melted off.
Right. So, okay.
Other than that, though, no.
So the first one is all about looking for, we'll call it the Holy Grail for lack of a better word. I guess technically the third one is about the Holy Grail, and the first one is about the Ark of the Covenant. My bad. The Ark of the Covenant is a box that holds the items of Moses in it, so like the 10 Commandments tablets and like a staff or something. I apologize for being the fucking bad religious man. I don't actually know what's in there, but I'm pretty sure that's what's supposed to be in there at least. And the Nazis open it up and evil god spirits smite them. That's not that crazy. The second film has a guy who is sacrificing people, and the way he sacrifices people is by, I don't know how you feel about spoilers, but he rips their hearts out of their body with his bare hands through their chest.
Hell yeah.
My bare fingers on your chest, and I rip your heart out.
Like he's Bruce Lee.
Yeah, well, you've got ribs. There's ribs here protecting your heart. Little crazy, just saying. And then you don't die right away after you get your heart ripped out. Then they dip you in a fucking vat of lava while you're still alive and your heart is beating. So that's kind of crazy. The third one is the Holy Grail. There's like some Jesus magic going on there. The fourth one is, I actually don't know if I want to spoil it because it kind of ruins the entire movie.
Yeah, don't spoil it. So the contents of the Ark of the Covenant, tablets of law, which are the 10 Commandments.
Okay.
A golden pot of manna, and Aaron's rod that budded.
Oh, there you go. A staff and some tablets. I almost had all of it. The thing I missed was the fucking bread. I'm sorry.
Shout out pot of manna.
Yeah, I don't. Do you know
That's
what
bread?
Yeah, well, it's a bread-like substance. The manna. Okay, so imagine this: you're wandering in the desert. This is a little Bible lesson. You're wandering in the desert. You're the Jewish people who've been exiled or freed from Egypt, however you want to talk about it. They've left Egypt. They are wandering in the desert, which is essentially like modern day Turkey, Israel, somewhere in there. And y'all are hungry. And every morning, God wakes you up by snowing bread on you.
Is it like Texas toast or no?
No, it's like flakes of snow, but it's bread. Yeah, I don't know how it works either. You're gonna have to fucking read the Bible, I guess. Ask a theologian. I don't know. I've always heard that like it explained, and I'm just like, what? So it's like dust.
I love how off the rails we got. Dude. We started with Indiana Jones, ended with Bible lessons.
It's related. It's related. We're doing Sunday school. I mean,
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It has sold 117.2 thousand copies on PS5 as of April 23rd.
How much? You said 200,000?
117.2 thousand.
Oh, 117. That's not very many.
That's just PS5. 91.2 thousand on Steam as of December 14th of 2024. So these just released on this just released on Steam and PS5 like relatively recently. I guess more so it just released on PS5. It was an Xbox exclusive. Despite it being an Xbox game, it is selling faster on PS5, which I wanted to do some research on this as to why that might be. I had always heard that there was more PS5 console sales than Xbox.
Makes sense.
So I wanted to run some numbers to see. As of February of 2025, the PS5 sold 74.15 million units. Xbox Series X and S only sold at 32.46 million units. So
damn.
Yeah, doubled.
I will add to, while the actual console sales plays a part into this, I believe that game released on Game Pass also. So it was a Game Pass game, and therefore there's not as many sales from that.
That is true. So that is true. So apparently 5 million people played it on Xbox, and a vast majority of those were Game Pass.
Of course.
So that does play a large part. Something else I'd always heard that Call of Duty in total had always sold more on PlayStation. And I didn't look up like every game, just the most recent game. 75% of Black Ops 6's full price sales were PS4 and 5. 15% was PC, and under 11% on Xbox, which is fucking insane.
Knowing these numbers is interesting to me because I play with Daniel. We play in Warzone.
Shout out Daniel.
And yeah, Daniel, our friend Dangsaroni. We play. He himself is probably top 1% of players. I'm at least good enough to be in the higher brackets of skill-based matchmaking. You just said 75% of the sales of that game are PlayStation users. You want to know how often I see a PlayStation user in one of my lobbies?
Never.
I never see anyone on PlayStation.
That's crazy.
Because the majority of people are not at our skill level, and the majority of our people, the majority of people at our skill level are cheating on PC.
That makes sense. That tracks.
The really high skill, the really high skill players are all playing on PC. So it makes sense that when we're in those brackets, we're only playing against PC players. When I see a PlayStation logo, I'm always like, hell yeah, dude. I'm going to slam that kid. And 9 out of 10 times I do, because it's nothing against PlayStation players, but like the hardcore, really good players are on PC, and the guys playing on PlayStation are just the guys getting on for the weekend or whatever. So I think
that tracks. You know, like some blue collar dad, just, you know, me and dad, man, just getting on, play some games with the boys.
Yep. And so anyways, I just think it's funny that you just put numbers there, because I kind of always thought it was probably something like that, because I don't ever see Xbox or PlayStation logos. It's like almost always I see the Steam logo and I see the BattleNet logo, and that's like all I see.
Yeah. Which is so crazy to think about. Yeah, I'd always heard, you know, Call of Duty on PlayStation, which is what we used to all play it on 5 years ago.
Right.
It always had like the tagline.
That was 6 years ago now, actually.
Franchise, a true best-selling franchise returns to PlayStation, yada yada yada. And so I always was curious. Like they've always said that COD sold better on PlayStation than.
Well, so I think the thing that you needed to look out for was 360 performed better than PS3. And I'm pretty sure, without looking at numbers, I'm going to say that more 360s were sold than PlayStation 3s.
I think they were.
You had a 360, did you not?
For a little bit, yeah.
So the thing about that is you have to look at the exclusives. COD had a deal with Xbox for exclusivity, and there was content that was coming out only on Xbox for timed exclusives and stuff like that. And then Activision jumped ship and made a partnership, basically the same deal, but with Sony. And it's interesting to see that happen, because when that happened, you probably could assume that there had been a shift in which console they were selling more copies on.
Yeah. No, I think it was just Microsoft sold through more money. If you're talking about the shift back to Microsoft, they started throwing more money.
No. That's a more recent shift that they've moved. Well, I mean, I think Microsoft owns Activision because they own Blizzard. But what I'm talking about is prior to that, during the 360 PS3 days, 360 would get the expansion packs, I think, a month early. So you could play the new maps on Xbox before you could play them on PlayStation. There was no crossplay back then, so it didn't really matter. But you had to wait a month longer on PlayStation. And then they shifted it so that PlayStation was getting exclusive content that was like a year timed exclusive. So when the new COD was launching, Xbox was getting the content that PlayStation had just had for a year, which I think it was usually like a map or an operator or something. It wasn't anything spectacular that you really wish you'd bought on PlayStation, but
so I ended up looking it up. PS3 ended up selling more than 360, but that was like at the very end of the life cycle.
Right.
Xbox was dominating them the whole time. So
the entire time, right.
PS3 ended with 87.4 million and Xbox 360 was 84. So only just a few million anyways, but they didn't end up winning the.
Well, there's a lot of people at some point who were buying PS3s to make like supercomputers.
Like NASA.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious to think about.
Hilarious indeed.
Shout out supercomputers.
What is that actually what they're called? Supercomputer? What was the actual term?
That's what I always heard it referred to as.
Oh, okay. Oh, basically, they throw a bunch of consoles in one room and they're using the process power of all of them. Which is kind of crazy because like my PC can like equate to like how many PlayStation 3s now. Fuck teraflops. Let's start measuring power and how many PS3s.
How many flip flops is it?
Yeah, it's how many flip flops. Let's measure it and how many PS3s your fucking GPU is.
Exactly. So actually, fun fact: Black Ops 3 sold more on. Why did I say 3? I'm just adding fucking numbers. Black Ops 1,
okay.
the first Black Ops, sold 4.9 million on Xbox 360 and 3.1 million on PS3.
Okay.
So I guess that's actually a newer trend of them selling more on PlayStation. So that's actually kind of wild.
Yeah.
Shout out Black Ops.
True.
Best one. The Nintendo Switch pre-orders went live. Rocco, did you get a pre-order?
Through what's the word? Through much trial, tribulation, and I probably should have just been there 10 minutes earlier. I did manage to secure a pre-order. I was watching you stream actually, and then I got up.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, exactly. I knew they were gonna go live on the 24th, right? And for some reason, I was thinking the 24th at midnight my time, which was totally wrong. It was 24th Eastern, and I don't. Yeah. That's one of those things that like that's so obvious. I don't even know how I didn't think of that. Like
stupid,
I guess, but it was the 23rd, and it's 9. It was like 9:50. I got up and I like was doing something. I don't remember what I was doing. I went to the bathroom. And I was doing whatever. I come back. I sit down. It's now 10:10, and I'm watching the stream, and Ninja's sitting there like this on his stream. He's playing Oblivion. I'm like, dog, why aren't you playing Oblivion? Like, what are you doing? And he's just sitting there like this on his phone.
Trying to get that fucking pre-order.
Dude, I was like, what is he doing? He's just on his phone. Play Oblivion, dog. It just came out. And he's like, oh, I'm trying to get a pre-order of a Switch. And I was just like, oh, motherfucker. Shit. It was Eastern time, midnight Eastern time. I was like, God damn, I'm so fucking stupid. I'm so dumb. I was like, where are you getting it? Who are you getting it through? I was like, boom, 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 website. I look up where to pre-order Switch. I hit Amazon, hit Best Buy, hit Walmart, hit Target, hit I think that was it. And I was like refreshing all the pages and all the shit and all and he's like, oh, I got it on Target. And I was like, oh my God, he got one on Target. He's been doing this for the last 10 minutes. Like someone told him. And then Goose was like, I got one. And I was like, oh fuck, dude, everyone's getting one.
Yeah, shout out Goose.
And I kept refreshing on Target, kept refreshing on Target. And it kept being like error. And then it wanted me to fill out my address and my name again over and over, which is not what you were getting, I don't think.
No, I just wasn't talking about it.
Oh, okay.
But no, that is the error I was getting.
Okay, yeah, mine kept doing that.
Telling me my address was wrong too, by the way.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, your address isn't looking right.
Sometimes I would click checkout and it would pop up with 3 errors. And then I tried to add PayPal. Then I tried to switch back to my debit card. And then after I switched back to my debit card, a PayPal window opened. And it's like, hey, log into your PayPal. I was like, I already did. Like, oh, I'm freaking out. I've been sitting in a line for Walmart the whole time. It's just like, hey, you're in a line. You can look at the rest of the website if you want. And on Best Buy, I go to Best Buy, and it just said sold out. So I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, fuck, man. Best Buy sold out. And then I went to Amazon. I probably should check Sam's Club. I don't know what to think of that. Maybe they're not doing pre-orders either, like Costco. I went to Amazon. Yeah. Amazon didn't even have pre-orders up, as far as I know. At least right then, anyway. Or Amazon went first. I don't know. I had GameStop up too. I forgot, but GameStop was being a real bitch. It kept fucking cloud flaring me or whatever the fuck. Like the website kept crashing. Um, and I think like Target was crashing too because there's so many people trying to get it through Target.
Yeah, I think so.
But finally, I was like, man, I'll just check Best Buy one more time, whatever. And I checked Best Buy, and there's a little button that says yellow, and it says add to cart. And I was like, oh shit. And so I click it, and it's like, hey, you're in a queue. If you wait in line, you can add this to your cart. And I was like, oh shit. So then I opened up a different tab for the other version of the console of the Switch, and I added that to my cart too. So I was in 2 different queues for Best Buy, and finally one of the queues went through and I was able to purchase it, which they only gave me like 10 minutes. They're like, hey, you have 10 minutes to finish your transaction. Otherwise it's going to the next person in line. So I was like, fuck that person. I'm buying this shit. So I did eventually get it through Best Buy. I kept trying to get it through Walmart and the other things for about an hour after that. Walmart, I never got out of the queue. GameStop and Target both changed their shit to sold out. And then I got on Best Buy. So, but it was a lot for something that I'm kind of not even excited for it.
So kind of same. Like yes and no for me too. I'm excited about aspects. So there's gonna be a Soulsborne game exclusive to Switch 2, which I will definitely be getting to play with you.
That's the only reason I bought the console, by the way, is because you want to play it, and I want to play it with you, and we're both gonna need a console.
Yeah. And then you can pay $10 per game, but you can also upgrade the 2 Legend of Zelda games that I want to play, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I plan on streaming those at some point. So I'll just pay the $10 and get the upgraded version of both of those.
That's fair.
Other than that, that's all I plan on playing on it, at least as of right now. Like I was looking to see if you could pre-order it on Amazon now. There's not even a
listing.
There's not even a listing for it.
That's what I was trying to say about Amazon, is there wasn't even a listing.
So I did see they're releasing like Cyberpunk on it, and like I would not get Cyberpunk on the Switch. And that could just be a personal thing for me. I think Switch should be specifically for like exclusives. I would never get something on Switch that I could just get on PC. I am a very big PC elitist.
So me too. I think there's certain games that have released that were okay on Switch that have also come out on other things. Nothing that requires incredible graphics you could do, as long like if you just want to have it with you.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of the way I feel too.
But yeah, I don't know. Just PC is superior in literally every way.
Every way, yeah.
And like, if you're willing to bend the rules a little bit, technically the Nintendo exclusives are not that exclusive. You can play them on PC.
That's true.
I wouldn't stream them on PC like that. You might get shut down. Neither of us would get shut down. I think we're too small time little boy.
Nintendo would send assassins. I don't even think they would shut us down. I think
we're so no name that they don't even send a cease and desist. They just send an assassin and kill us, and everyone's like,
just kill them.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, I don't know why he died. That's really weird.
So yeah, I wanted to go over just how rough of a launch those pre-orders were. Sometimes it's hard getting pre-orders, but the Switch 2 pre-order was insanely bad. So
I don't know.
It was by the sheer grace of God you got one on Best Buy, because I heard conflicting reports. So I got mine on Target, and I know Goose got hers on Target, but so Target was the best place to get it from, and I struggled, and she struggled for like, we both struggled, I'm pretty sure, for like at least 10 to 15 minutes each, until it finally went through and worked.
So
Best Buy, I've heard, kind of did the same. Some people said it was fine for them. I know you got one. Walmart, though, apparently almost no one, people obviously did, but lots of people just were not able to get pre-orders from Walmart. Like, it was insanely bad.
Speaking from experience, I think that might have been the easiest pre-order ordeal I've ever been through.
Oh yeah.
When PS5 came out, I did get 2 on Amazon, and I got one from Best Buy.
Damn.
But when Switch originally launched, I didn't get a single one. I didn't have a Switch for like a month after they came out, because not only could I never find them, I could never like they were just never in stock online, and I didn't get them when they went live for pre-orders, and I was there waiting for it that time.
Oof.
PS5, I was waiting there, like as soon as it went live, I was already on the websites waiting for it. I don't know, it's like I didn't pre-order the Xbox Series 1. I don't think there were lines for that though, especially after the numbers we heard earlier.
True.
I don't know. I feel like ordering consoles is really not. They've done a lot, I think, recently, these websites, to fight bots, because usually you would just lose to bots. Bots would just buy everything immediately.
Yeah.
People would write
true.
a script, which refreshes the page over and over, and then as soon as the button is, the element to buy it is clickable, it'll auto click it and then it'll check out and send it to you. So they have a script running, and you can't beat instant, right? Because it's a machine, it's a robot, it does it immediately. And so a lot of consoles have lost to that, which is why I think so many websites like Walmart has a really atrocious, awful one where you have to prove you're human. And the prove you're human one is really stupid, because you can definitely defeat it with a script if you know how to defeat it. There's no matching a puzzle, there's no picking an image, there's no clicking a dot anywhere. You just have to hold down a button until it verifies that you're human. Which, because I guess a robot won't do that. I don't know. You can definitely make a script that will hold a button down. If you can't, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, that you can't have a button hold down script. But there's safeties now, basically, so that they can prevent scalping, and they can prevent other people getting them that are not, the person who's going to use the system. And because of that, I think it's actually easier now to get consoles than it had previously been. I wish they could figure out how to do a better system for GPUs. Every time new GPUs come out, we always want them, and
always scalpers.
Those are almost impossible. You both got a 3080, I think.
We did. I didn't get the original 3080 I wanted. I was able, so ironically, I got one that someone on Reddit. I got one that someone on Reddit wanted, and he had the one that I wanted, so we ended up just swapping.
Yeah, and then so that worked out for you. And Daniel got a 3080. I didn't. I got a 3070, which is actually still in my streaming PC. And Daniel told me I was retarded for getting a 3070, and maybe I was. But not only did I not get it at launch, like right when 3080s went live, but I didn't get it for like a month or two after that, because every time there'd be a restock, they would all sell out instantly. And that's been a problem for GPUs since. So it's kind of nice that there were some systems on the Switch 2 pre-orders that, we all got one, as far as I know. Daniel got one. You got one. I got one. Goose got one. I don't know who else got one. Did Sweets get one?
I don't actually know.
I wonder if Sweets tried. I bet she did. Try at least. Who else would want one? Locke, maybe?
Probably Locke, yeah.
I'm trying to think. I feel like our friend group who would actually want the console is not that big. Also,
Curls, maybe?
Yeah, Carl. Oh, I think Carl's got one. I think I saw somewhere he posted he got one. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. But either way,
are you able to pre-order it anywhere right now? Obviously
Me?
not Amazon, but yeah, like is it like just anyone? Is it pre-orderable currently?
I don't know. I think Best Buy still says it's like coming soon or whatever. Which that's what it said. It said coming soon when I looked at it originally. And then I refreshed the page and it said add to cart or whatever.
It is out of stock.
It's just out of stock.
on target at least. Yeah.
All right, let's look at Best Buy. Best Buy says it's not loading. Okay.
Hell yeah.
GameStop. Switch 2 says coming soon again. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so it's out of stock currently. I mean, we still have some time. Not that we didn't get it, but June 5th, 2025 is the release date. I'm curious. I hope I end up getting it on release day. Target's launch window or release window rather does not state June 5th. It says the 10th through the 13th, I think, is my window. But
So,
I'm assuming that will change.
yeah, that might change. My thing was, and I've pre-ordered consoles before. Okay, so it's not even on Sam's Club's website, and the GameStop says coming soon, and Best Buy says coming soon. My thing in the past when I've ordered consoles, I ordered the PS5s, right? And what the fuck is going on there? Hold on, let me fix that. There we go. I have ordered consoles like the PS5, and I ordered 3 of them. Okay, and 2 of them were from Amazon, and they didn't show up on launch day. They showed up the next morning.
Oh, that's shitty.
Yeah, that was real shitty. I was really pissed about that. But it didn't matter that much because the one I got from Best Buy was ready the day of at Best Buy. I just had to go pick it up. It wasn't shipped to my door. I just had to go to Best Buy and pick it up. And so I kind of am glad I got the Switch on Best Buy because the ship date on Best Buy was like, it sounds like it would ship out on launch day, so on June 5th. Whereas if I had it set to pick up at Best Buy, it said it'll be ready on June 5th to pick up. So I did that because, I mean, my Best Buy is like not too far from me. It's not that hard to just go pick it up myself. And then, you know, I'll have it like they're not going to open before I wake up. So it'll be fine, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny though. The kids were, I told them that I secured a pre-order. And then when I was talking to them yesterday, Aaron was like, "Hey, did you get your Switch 2 yet?" I was like, "No."
What?
I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "It's a pre-order." He's like, "Yeah, but you paid for it." I was like, "Yeah, I did pay for it." He's like, "Well, so don't they send it to you?" And I was like,
so what are we waiting on?
I was like, yeah. I was like, I know. I was like, but we got to wait until it's ready. And he's like, "Well, it's probably ready now, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, the console probably is already manufactured right now. But when you think about logistics, it has to come across an ocean, has to go through customs, has to be distributed, has to be broken down, has to go to warehouse 1, warehouse 2, yada, 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 logistics. It takes a while. Plus there's a street date. So it's like, okay, it could just be like they took it off the line and it's not even packaged in its original packaging yet. Like maybe they took it off the line and it's sitting in whatever bin. You know, I don't know what the factory that makes the Switch 2s looks like, but you know,
we should go raid it.
We should. That's a joke for anyone concerned.
Yeah, true.
But it's just funny because he doesn't understand the street date for one, but everything else, the logistics and all that. So it's just funny because he's like, "Well, where is it?" He's like, "Is it going to be there when we get back?" And I was like, "No, it's not gonna."
Brother.
And he's like, "Well, when is it coming out?" I was like, "June." He's like, "That's 2 months from now." And I was like, "Hold on, dude. Let's do the math. Like, how many days are left in April?" And he's like, "Well, it's the 26th, so 4." And I was like, "Okay, how many days are in May?" And he's like, 31. I was like, "All right. How many days? It's coming out on June 5th. How many days is that?" He's like, 5. And I was like, "All right, so what's 4 and 5 and 31?" And he's like, 40. I was like, "Perfect. You did simple math, and now you know you got to wait 40 days." I should have told him today that he only has to wait 39 days now.
True.
And today's almost over, so really, it's 38 at this point.
Shout out Nintendo Switch. So this is gonna be a small topic I wanted to go over. But I did think it was worth mentioning at least.
Sure.
So there is a video game called Until Dawn.
Never heard of
I've
it.
played it. Did you play it?
No, I never played it. I don't even think I've
Should have.
watched it. I know it's pretty good. It's regarded as being pretty good. But I've never even watched anyone play it. I don't think.
it's one of those games. A lot of people call them like movie games. Like they're essentially like there's not much gameplay, not much action going on. You're
Well,
just you're
it's-
moving
it's-
a joystick and then pressing a button.
It's like the Tall Tale games, right?
Yeah, choices matters games. That's another like name people will give it.
Would you put like Heavy Rain and
It
like
is made by the same company, I'm fairly certain. So
Is it?
yes.
Is it?
Mm,
Because they made Heavy
I'm pretty
Rain.
sure.
They made Detroit Become Human. They made. There's one between Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. Did they make that game too?
Beyond Two Souls.
Oh, that was them.
the name of that game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I forget what that studio is called, but I liked Heavy Rain a lot.
Quantic Dream made that. I might be wrong.
But that genre, that's sort of like basically the whole game is choices and quick time events.
Yeah. I am wrong about that. So Supermassive made Until Dawn, who also made The Quarry. And they also made
Is the Quarry
the Dark Pictures games.
the Quarry was that like camp, like summer
Yeah.
camp type game? Is that the one
Yeah.
where you have the clip of you where you're like, they couldn't put a rock right there?
And you made that fucking TikTok for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I made
Yeah,
an
that
edit
was-
where I
that
put
was that
myself
game.
there. Yeah, that's wasn't that game like co-op though? Like couldn't you play it
It
co-op?
was.
Although it didn't
Yeah.
work. I think you tried playing with what, Pixel?
I think so. Yeah, and it was kind of broken.
But anyways, so they made Until Dawn. Have you said you did play it?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty good. I actually really liked it. However, they just made a movie for it.
Okay.
It's getting very mixed reviews. I don't think it's that great. However, the writers of the original game did not even get credited in the credits for the movie, which is incredibly fucked up in my opinion. And that happens a lot with games, evidently, that get made into movies. A lot of times, just the studio will get a shout out. Sometimes not even that. But in my opinion, if you're taking someone else's work, even if you put a twist on it, I feel like you should still give credit where credit's due. So the original writers, Larry Fessenden and Graham Resnick, their script was 10,000 pages. So I mean, it's nothing to scoff at. So here's the thing with that game. So it's a choices matters game. And it's very deep. So like this is just a ballpark number. Let's say you have 7 characters that you'll bounce around and play as.
Okay.
If you make a bad choice and die, that character's written out and the story's going to change a little bit based on the rest of your options. So it being 10,000 pages 100% makes sense to cover all the different scenarios and all the different like there'll be 10 endings that are all pretty similar, but they're also going to be different.
Okay. Heavy Rain's like that. Not to that complexity. I think there's only like 3 or 4 characters in Heavy Rain. And I don't think so. I don't
Jason.
think. Yeah, Jason. I don't think there's a. I think when one of your characters dies in Heavy Rain, the game just ends. Like you get that ending. That's the ending now.
Hell yeah! Really?
It's something like that. You might get to keep playing as the other characters, but it might make you restart on some of them. I'm trying to think because it's been so long since I played it. I feel like I died on one of my characters and then I had to redo that section. But I died on a different character and the game just kept going. I don't know. Maybe it was a scripted death. I don't remember. But
okay.
I enjoy games that change. Like if you make a decision that gets someone killed, I enjoy games that not necessarily
tweaked.
punish you, but like changes what happens.
Yeah.
Bug Snacks of all things has like a do you know what Bug Snacks is?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, it's a very woke game. It's incredibly woke, although not necessarily woke in the ways you might think. You play as a race of animal creature things called grumpuses. And so there's no like races, right? So there's no woke race things going on in there. There's woke other things going on in there though. There are characters who can die in the final like sequence of the game, and there is dialogue for if they die or if they survive, and the ending changes just like barely at all, but like it does have different endings. If you count every character that dies, I think there's like 7 different endings, but you could have all 7 die or whatever and see all of the endings at one time, versus if they all survive, see that ending. I wouldn't really call it different endings. It's just like the dialogue at the end is slightly changed. But I do enjoy games that have that sort of thing to it. I don't necessarily like games though that have different endings based on like what you did throughout the game, and then want trophies that's like, hey, see this ending, and see that ending.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to play through the game that many times. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
Now, if it drastically changes the whole story based on a choice you make, like, I don't know, this is not the best example, but say Skyrim, for instance, if you pick the Imperials versus the Stormcloaks, now you're playing their story, and so that story pathway is just completely different. That's okay.
Yeah.
But if it's like, that's okay to make me play it multiple times. But if it's like the game is basically the same, but one decision changed the ending, like that's not cool.
I want some finality to my choices. At least in a role playing game.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was one of the biggest critiques of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas is there will be different endings and like different alliances that you can make, but it never really changes that much. Like, yeah, who you side with is different, but essentially the ending's the same. Just you're on this team. You're on team A instead of team B.
Fallout 4 did a little better with that, but honestly, all the endings in Fallout 4 are essentially the same. You conquer the Commonwealth. Fallout 3, your choices almost didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
New Vegas, they mattered more, but I feel like the factions in Fallout New Vegas don't really impact the story at all, like the main story anyway.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. I don't know, was there something else I wanted to say about the beginning of this topic? What was this about again?
Until Dawn.
Yeah, but there was it was about crediting authors to movies or whatever. That's one of those things that I feel like it happens a lot in video game franchises. And I don't know, making a video game into a film seems like such a weird thing. I think a lot of times adapting video games to movie or television is just weird in general. Because like, think about the Minecraft movie, for instance. That which by the way, they didn't credit Notch at all for that, who Notch invented Minecraft, but then he started Mojang and then he sold Mojang to Microsoft along with Minecraft. So him not being involved with it makes sense. They could have credited like, hey, Minecraft was originally created by Notch. They could have said something like that, but I don't think they did. But the real thing is that they adapted it and changed things, right? So the adaptation of Minecraft into a movie, which there's no story in Minecraft anyway, right? There's just not a story.
Yeah.
So they had to make a story, and to make a story, they had to change some of the mechanics of the game, some of the lore, maybe even. And that's fine. That's okay. You know, we've been watching The Last of Us, and they have changed a lot of that. But a lot of times these changes are not great. They can be okay. I haven't watched because there's a Witcher TV show, isn't there?
There is.
Have
Henry
you-
Cavill plays as him in the first 2 at least seasons.
Have you watched it?
I've watched most of it. I have not seen the last season, maybe the last 2, because I
And-
think they ended up sneaking a season out and I didn't realize.
And I think it's supposed to be like more or less the Witcher 3's game. I don't think it's the whole
The whole show?
Yeah.
No, they're it's adapting the books more so than the games.
Okay, so it's the books more than the games. Okay. Well,
yeah.
so that's a little different then in that regard. I haven't watched it at all, so I wouldn't know. But I feel like they changed some things, and I've heard that it's fine for the most part. I've heard some super like diehard fans are upset about it. But it's like sometimes the adaptations are like crazy or like weird. Like Master Chief in the Halo movie. I think it's the Halo. Is it the movie or the TV show? Yeah, it's the TV show. Was there a movie? There was a movie, wasn't there?
It wasn't on Chief, but yeah, it was
okay.
It was like a weird I don't even know if I'd call it a movie. I think it was like an hour long.
But so that's one of those things that the Master Chief like having sex is not something we needed. It's not something people wanted, and people didn't even want
nothing you see in the games at all.
Yeah. I mean, everyone was always like, "Oh, Cortana's so hot," which those people are weird, by the way. We didn't need to see his face ever, not ever. But that's one of those things that when you start talking to people who produce films and produce television, they're like, no one can relate to a mask, no one can relate to a helmet. You can't have a character that never shows their face because that doesn't show their emotion. You can't see how they're emoting, and therefore it's bad storytelling. Right? That's like the philosophy and the theory that they believe in and that they follow and they practice. And I hate it because Master Chief was never badass because we could see him making a face. In fact, the fact that he's so stoic and you can't see his face at all is what makes him so badass. There's people all around him dying, and he's just, this is his expression. What is he?
Exactly.
Is he angry? Is he upset? Is he crying? We don't fucking know because it doesn't fucking matter. And then you hear him speak, and it's like his attitude hasn't changed. That's badass. He's a badass. Like he's what is the term? He's got the flat story arc, right? His character doesn't change. He doesn't have character development. He is Master Chief, right? And you know, it's one of those things. They changed The Last of Us, and I have a feeling they changed it in this way. We talked about this, you and I personally. In the games, The Last of Us, there's spores. You know, the mushroom spreads by spores, and they put gas masks on to not breathe in the spores, and it's a big part of both games. Honestly, there's lots of sections,
a huge part,
where you have to put a gas mask on, and the whole thing is you're wearing the gas mask, and that's how you stopped yourself from getting infected. It was a big, and you know, you'd be worried about breaking your gas mask because something else you had to carry. Like there was a lot of elements about your gas mask because it keeps you safe. It's your lifeline. Like it's important to have it. And then the show just wrote it out completely. And I don't know if they just didn't want the actors carrying around gas masks. That maybe it's more luggage they didn't want them to carry around. Maybe logistics, they didn't want to have it. But my theory is that the driving force and why they eliminated the gas mask thing was because they don't want gas masks. They don't want something covering the actors' faces because then you can't see what they're saying. You can't see how they're emoting. And when you can't see that, it's bad storytelling. So I think that was most likely the reason they made that change. So there's probably no gas mask in Until Dawn. I haven't played it, but they have to be careful when adapting those things, because if they change things like that, like a lot of people were upset about the changes made to Master Chief in the story. I'm not necessarily the gas mask. I think they did it well enough that in The Last of Us that it's not a big deal. But like Master Chief's helmet, you know, come on. They need to be careful about trying to adapt things in a way that is disingenuous towards the original material. But they also need to do things so that it can stand alone as its own media. Like if you've never played the game, you can sit down and watch and understand what's going on. Which, like, you know, you watch the Minecraft movie and there's so much of Jack Black being like, Flint and Steel, chicken jockey, you know, there's fucking memes everywhere about him being like, this is a crafting table or whatever. And it's like, yeah, we fucking know. No, you don't. What if you've never played the game? You don't know what the fuck that is. You, like, so they have to explain it to people who are unfamiliar with the world or the franchise or the whatever. They're unfamiliar with the material. And so in that sense, they do have to explain it for like the normies or whatever you want to call them, people who are brand new to the franchise or the series or whatever.
The normies.
But so I understand it has to be there to some degree, but when it's overdone, it gets really too much. Like, you don't need to explain everything in a way that like, oh, I've never played this game, like what is this about? So sometimes they get caught up in trying to like storytell and world build and be like, hey, this is this aspect of the game, and it's like you could just not explain that and it'd probably be fine. People aren't as dumb as you think. But sometimes it's like Minecraft where he's holding this fucking pixelated object. You're like, what the fuck is that? And he's like, oh, it's flint and steel. Oh, that's a bucket? Okay, cool, got it.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Evidently it's twofold as to why they didn't. So you are right. It's partially that, but also so Craig Mazin, what was he, like the showrunner or whatever, or like one of the writers with Neil.
Yeah,
I think he's the showrunner for like HBO or whatever on the show. So basically, he brought up a good point. So he mentions how the games kind of don't make sense with the spores, because it's like, why is that only an issue sometimes? Like technically the spores are going to be in the air, probably everywhere. So it's kind of one of those things, like, I guess, like, if it's concentrated, like, if it's a sealed room.
Yeah, I think that was how they explained it in the games, is that it had to be like in a sealed room. So like the only time you ever worry about spores is like when you're crawling through a tunnel, or you're in the sewers, or you're in like a house where it's enclosed and you'll find it in a room or something. And I think the reason for that is that the spores themselves are not, one spore is not going to infect you. You need like hundreds or something.
Yeah.
But
which makes sense. But I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that change. The tendril mouth thing is kind of fucking gross, honestly. Yeah. Anyways,
the tendril mouth thing was probably fine. They just didn't need to have the scene where it kisses Tess. That was, I don't know why they were like, let's include a kissing scene between a zombie and a human.
That was incredibly odd. Yeah.
It's just, I watched it and I was just like, why? Who made this decision? What exec heard this and was like, green light that? That's what we're doing. That right there needs to be in the show. Who fucking does that? I'm like, dog, what? I could have gone my entire life without seeing that. Why did you show us that?
True. So we talked about this movie back when it was first announced.
Yay.
Sunrise on the Reaping finally cast its Plutarch Heavensby, and it is going to be Jesse Plemons, which I am incredibly hyped for. He is a phenomenal actor. He played Todd in Breaking Bad. That's the first thing I ever seen him in. I don't know if that's his first acting credit.
Is it Plutarch or is it Plutarch?
Probably Plutarch. It shouldn't be Plutarch. It's an H.
Yeah,
but it probably is Plutarch.
Yeah, I think it's Plutarch. What did you say you saw him in? Breaking Bad was the first thing you saw him in?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. That was the first thing I ever saw him in.
Yeah, he was in. So he was in that.
Some filler stuff here and there. It looks like. Oh, he was in Observe and Report. That's funny. We talked about that one episode.
Yeah, I don't remember his role being particularly large in that though.
Probably wasn't. I don't remember him being in it.
Yeah.
The next thing I saw him in was Black Mass, which was phenomenal.
Well, you saw him in Civil War also.
True, but that just came out a few years ago. There's been a couple more.
Yeah,
since then.
that is true. I'm looking at his list right now, and I haven't seen most of
married
these.
to Kirsten Dunst.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So
wait, is he really?
Yeah.
That makes the whole part in Civil War funnier.
So he actually got that role because of her. It was supposed to be someone else, and they dropped out. And she was like, "Oh,
what about my husband? He acts." Yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up having like the best part in the whole movie. Anyways, he's a really good actor at showing like just absolute no emotion, which sounds like it'd be a bad thing, but like he makes a really good villain or like bad guy or like morally wrong person.
A psychopath.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like too. not like Christian Bale type psychopath or Heath Ledger psychopath, like an actual literal psychopath, like the kind that when you meet them you're all like, oh shit, this guy's fucking crazy, and then you're talking to them and you're like, oh shit, I need to get out of here. Like it instills that kind of fear that like, you know, maybe he's normal, maybe he's all right, and then he does something and you're like, whoa, I need to leave. I need to go. And so he's really good at that. I hope he's not getting typecasted too much on that though in the future, because while he's good at it, I don't want him to pop up on screen and immediately be like, oh, he's the villain.
No, I don't think he will. Think about who he's going to be playing.
Oh, that's true.
Plutarch Heavensby. He's, I guess, depending on how you go with it, he's like kind of technically a hero. I guess if you view the Resistance as the good guys,
I mean,
it could go either way.
Well, so just as long as he's not a callous, like, it's like he's callous and like callous evil.
So in Black Mass, I don't think he will. So Todd in Breaking Bad, yes, and then his character in Civil War, yes,
right.
But I wouldn't say in Black Mass he had that like morally wrong compass and did it with like no emotion.
Well, it's not that he had a morally wrong compass, it's just he didn't have a moral compass at all. In Breaking Bad. Yeah. And well, I guess in Civil War he had a moral compass. He just was, I don't know. His character in that doesn't make as much sense. I feel like they are more like looters that were happy that everything was going on the way it was going on, and they were like he was one of those guys that like he was probably like a 9 to 5, like, I don't know, we'll just say accountant or something, you know, he's just an accountant, but he always wanted to murder people. And then the second the opportunity rolled around, he was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go fucking sign up and murder people. That's what that character felt like more to me, is that like the opportunity was there, so he was taking it, but had the opportunity not been there, he wouldn't necessarily be acting like that.
That's fair. So something kind of cool about him replacing the late Philip Seymour Hoffman,
RIP,
RIP, is in 2012 they both starred in a movie called The Master, and Plemons actually played his son. So he already looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman. So that was a 10 out of 10 casting, honestly. I'm really curious who they're going to get to play Hamish, because this movie and like the book is based off of Hamish,
right?
So I'm also glad the turnaround between this book and that movie is a lot shorter. So they announced the release date of the movie, which I don't think we had when the book was released when we talked about it, but November 20th of 2026. So
now we might have because we were talking about how it was interesting that the turnout was so fast.
That's true. Yeah. So
'cause-
maybe they had just announced it.
Yeah, I think they had just announced the actual date. But yeah, that's
Little over a year,
yeah.
which is better than like I think with the last book, I'm pretty sure it was like 3 years. Something like that. It was more than a year, I know. So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. So GameStop is converting into Paymores, which I've never even fucking heard of a Paymore until this. It's a tech retail chain.
From where?
And I don't actually know.
Okay.
I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they are. I don't know where they went, Cotton Eye Joe.
What a crazy name.
Paymore? True.
Yeah.
How about Pay Less?
Shoe store.
That was already taken. So GameStop's closed over 700 stores since 2020, which is insane. So Paymore has started rapidly expanding. They opened 18 stores in March 2025.
Okay.
And they are projected a 150 by the end of the year.
Wow.
Which is insane. So
150
and they're
total stores or 150 new stores?
I'm assuming total. So they're targeting GameStops specifically. And it's kind of funny. So I don't think like they literally are going to focus on. It's pretty similar to GameStop. I don't really know why they think it's going to go better for them. They take like console trade-ins and stuff like that, or like any electronics. But yeah, so when GameStop puts its for sale sign up, Paymore's fucking sliding right in the DMs. They're trying to create more vibrant, community-focused spaces. So that makes me think they might try to pull out some like Magic the Gathering tournaments or something.
I mean, that's one of the things a lot of people are talking about that GameStop needs to do to revitalize it, is to have like tournaments or have like an in-game, like an in-house, like sort of that sort of thing. A lot of people have talked about turning GameStops into like cyber cafe type things where like you could rent a computer, like you go sit down and play on a computer for like an hour or something.
Yeah.
My problem with that, all those ideas is, generally speaking, most GameStops don't have the capacity, as in the size, they don't have the retail space to fit that sort of thing in there.
They backed themselves into a corner with that. So they opened their first store in 2012. Does not say where. They do franchise, so you can buy your own Paymore if you'd like. For surprisingly cheap, only 35,000.
That's more than McDonald's, I think.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That is incredibly small for McDonald's, if that's true.
My bad.
I was gonna say you couldn't have been any more wrong than that.
McDonald's is 45,000.
There's a franchise fee.
Yeah.
But you have to invest $1 million to $2 million on top of that fee.
I think that's how most franchises work.
That's not the way the Paymore made it seem. Dude, what is this fucking video that's popping up? Will you go the fuck away? Oh my god.
So Paymore says low cost startup, get up and running for under 200,000. This is saying the startup cost is about 239,000 to 362,000. The franchise fee 35,000.
Okay, so there's still a fee and then also like startup costs.
Yeah, dude. If McDonald's was actually, or like 45,000, like if that's the fee, that's all you had to pay,
That's what I was yeah, that's why I was like, I'll go fucking take out a loan real quick because McDonald's fucking straight crank out money.
True. Well, if they're in a good location.
True.
Yeah. So the other thing is a lot of times when you go to buy a franchise, you need to have the capital, but you also have to have business acumen. They won't just give it to anyone. Just because you have money doesn't mean you have business acumen. You need to prove that you have the credentials to even run a franchise before most companies will allow you to open a franchise. Because once you open a franchise, even though it's your franchise, you're still representing the brand. Yeah. I've looked into it. Believe me, I have.
Makes sense.
But yeah.
Yeah, so they've been around for a hot minute. I've never heard of them though, so I don't think we have any local, but there are a few GameStops. So maybe they'll start closing down around me and Paymore will slide in. I'm sure just like any other electronics store though, they're gonna buy it for pennies on the dollar and then sell it for $2 to the dollar. I'm sure that's usually how they operate. Like, oh hey, want to trade in this game that just came out last week? Here's $35. Meanwhile, 55 is what we're going to charge, which I mean, it's business. It makes sense, but it's still shitty.
Yeah.
And crazy.
So, well, I mean, that sort of business is why GameStop's not doing well.
True.
There are some in Virginia, it looks like. I mean, in state that you live in.
I was going to say, shout out doxing.
Oh, maybe it's just one in Fredericksburg. So
that is not close. So
yeah. So the closest one to me is probably the one in Phoenix or the one in Denver. There's a couple in Arizona. There's a couple in Utah. There's a couple in Colorado. And there's a couple in Texas. So all around me are Paymores, but not in the state I'm in. It doesn't look like there's actually that many, and there's quite a few in Canada, surprisingly, in Toronto. They have 6. Toronto has 6. I don't see any other cities that have that much. Washington DC's got 7 technically. One of them is like in a mall or something. I don't know what that symbol is. They started on Long Island, and it makes sense. There's 5 on Long Island.
So there's not a lot.
No, I mean, well, you said there was like barely 100, right?
Well, I didn't know if that was for sure, like if they want to hit 150 total, or if they want to hit 150.
There's a single. There's a single one in London.
We should go to that one. I bet it's fucking badass.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I mean that's
This map I'm looking at has people's national waters drawn in, the borders of the ocean where is not international water. That's interesting. An interesting map.
That is an interesting map. Yeah, I mean, shout out GameStop, shout out Paymore, shout out paying less though. Hopefully it works better for them than it did GameStop. I don't know. Maybe they know something that good old GS doesn't. I doubt it though.
One in Colombia. Allegedly, there's one in Colombia, and I zoomed all the way in, and there's not a city here. It looks like it's just in the middle of the fucking like mountain. I don't know. Yeah, it's the.
What electronics would you be trading in Colombia?
I don't know. It's a Paymore Seek Onk, whatever that means. It says coming soon. I don't know what that is. If it's like a kiosk or something, like a red box or something. I don't know what that is, but it's literally in the middle of a forest. It says there's a landing strip nearby, but there's 2 mountain peaks nearby, 4. It's in the mountains.
That's the one we should go to.
That's the one we should go to in Colombia. Dude, you think they put it there for the cartels or something? Why is it there?
That's got to be money laundering exclusively, right?
Dude,
it's near the airstrip too.
Yeah, and there's no named towns or whatever, like right here. I don't know, like it's hard to get a scale for like what this is. Yeah, maybe the map doesn't render whatever correctly.
Oh, Potentially.
but it looks like it's in the middle of like a national forest. So I don't know. Weird map. Just funny. Just thought I would mention that it. I guess I could have shown everyone, but I just.
Nah, they don't need to see.
Nah, they need to see. We're gonna go back. Hold on. We're going back. Hold on, and you make sure my location's not on here. Yeah, don't use my location. Fuck you. How do I do this without doxing myself? I think this is basically how we do it. Yeah, so anyways, here it is. Right here. You zoom in. It's just in the middle. Here's the peak. You peek a peak. Here's the airstrip. And you just forest. It's just in the forest. Nice. All right, anyways. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. So did you know that there is a lawsuit going on over the Superman rights?
The rights for Superman?
Yeah.
Like
the franchise.
Damn.
So basically, the lawsuit was filed by Mark Perry. He's the nephew of Joe Shuster, who is the original creator of Superman.
Okay.
And he's claiming that Shuster's estate had a right to cancel Superman's copyrights in 10 countries, including the UK, Canada, Ireland. Sorry, it was UK, Canada, and Ireland, under the UK's Dickens provision of copyright law. So the estate's arguing that under British law, the copyright to Superman reverted to Shuster's estate 25 years after his death, and that this reversion applied in countries following UK copyright law. So basically, they're like, no, fuck you. Joe's been dead. We want our money. Which is crazy comms. And I did not know that lawsuit was even going on. So if that were to get ruled in their favor, that could seriously fuck up DC's money. Because then they're not gonna be able to drop the movie in those countries, I'm assuming.
Nah, it would be they could drop movies in those countries, but they'd have to pay royalties.
Yeah. So Warner Brothers is arguing that a previous agreement between them and Shuster's estate settled all those claims. And it looks like it was dismissed. So a U.S. district judge, which I don't know why he's even fucking weighing in. I guess because DC is in America. So he dismissed the case.
Well, where did they sue them?
I'm guessing in the UK.
Well, so
if they're going to cite UK laws.
Well, that's probably why I got dismissed, because the US doesn't enforce UK laws.
Yeah.
That sounds like a whole bag of international bullshit. If it's an American suing an American company for something that happened in Britain, that's probably not going to go great. Now, if it was a British person suing an American in the UK, for instance, that could go a whole lot differently. But I don't know. That sounds silly. It was dismissed though, or it was dismissed in the US. Okay, but
yeah,
in other countries, it's ongoing, perhaps.
So basically, they are supposed to pay the royalties based off the agreement.
Okay.
Another Perry, Warren Perry, which is Shuster's nephew, is claiming infringement of copyright laws in the UK, Australia, Canada, and Ireland, among others, alleging that Warner Brothers lost its international rights to Superman years ago, and continued to use it without permission or compensation. So they were not paying him. And so they were seeking just share profits, which you look on the profits part. I mean, it still made like Superman still made money, but Warner Brothers definitely was dropping the fucking ball
that gets to one of those things that let's think about, like Man of Steel. There's profits there, right?
Yeah.
Now let's look at Superman being in the first Shazam as a cameo. How much money would he get from that? Because yes, Superman was used in that. Superman made an appearance. They had to have Superman there. How much money of the profits is attributed to Superman, though? That's one of those things that, like, he's like, oh dude, I want my profits, and like, all right, here's $100.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those things where, like, you get.
How do you
Yeah, I
break
don't know.
down, like, think about Justice League.
Would it be based off how the actor gets paid portraying the role? Maybe, I don't know.
It's based on how much they pay for the right to have the franchise there, because the fee might be the same regardless of the movie. So maybe to have Superman have a cameo in Shazam costs the exact same to make a Superman movie in terms of the licensing fee. But the problem is if Warner Brothers owns the licensing fee, or they own the license to Superman, it's very difficult to dole out however much money because they didn't pay a licensing fee because they own the license. So it's that's where it gets muddled and difficult to figure out how much to pay that guy if he wins.
So you know what? I wonder if they're just trying to what's the legal term for when you like get something held up in court, basically to pretty much just like prolong any type of like money, or there's a fucking term. I can't think of the term. Anyways, I wonder if that's what they're trying to do essentially, because it got dismissed Thursday and then they immediately refiled it on Friday in New York. So the US District Judge Jesse Furman dismissed it on Thursday. And the next day they refiled it in New York in state court.
I don't know. What is that word? It's not gerrymandering. It's not grandstanding. I think it's a political term of some sort. Right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, potentially. Either way, yeah, I didn't even know that was even ongoing.
You talking about filibuster, maybe?
No.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking of when you said that. But you're saying essentially they're just trying to keep it
held up in court, so that way, they can't release it in those countries. Because I think if there's an ongoing lawsuit dealing with that, I don't think they're technically allowed to do that.
What the fuck is going on here?
I don't think. Yeah, that's interesting.
It is interesting.
I don't know if I care. I don't know. The new Superman movie from James Gunn looks interesting, and I am gonna watch it for sure. I'm worried they might be doing too much with it though, because they've shown off a couple of trailers and it's essentially Justice League. Like there's so many different people that are in Justice League, or like just other heroes in general. And for the first movie in a new DC continuity movie universe, I think throwing in that many heroes is going to be a little nutty.
What has James Gunn done recently that was good?
Guardians 3 and 2 and 1. Outside of those, I don't know if he's done anything in the past like 10 years.
Because I don't think Suicide Squad was good, right?
Which one did he do? Did he do the new one or the older one?
He did the new one with John Cena.
That one was significantly better. That one actually wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, that I didn't realize he did that. Yeah, that one actually wasn't that bad. So
okay. That one wasn't that bad. Okay,
no,
so
I liked it.
Maybe he was the other one bad though, because Will Smith was in it? Because my money,
crazy.
I mean,
It was not bad because the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. If anything, his character wasn't that bad.
I didn't care for him. Which
Damn.
I like that character. Who the fuck even was that? Bullseye? No, that's not.
Damn. Do you like him?
That's Marvel. What is his name though? His name's something stupid like Bullseye or fucking Trick Shot or some shit. If you asked me to name 3 DC characters, I probably couldn't.
That's just because DC is not as good as Marvel.
DC has
Anyways,
Batman.
Deadshot.
Deadshot, thank you. DC has DC has Marvel. DC has Batman, and Batman's been carrying the entire DC everything for years.
So there's one more title from DC that I'm gonna give him a shot on just because Rebel Ridge was really good. It's the Green Lantern movie. The guy that was the main character in Green Lantern, in Rebel Ridge is gonna be playing in Green Lantern.
Okay.
So I have high hopes for that because he is a phenomenal actor. Aaron Pierre is his name. So I am going to watch that. And if that ends up not being good, I don't think I care about them.
About DC?
He's gonna be playing, yeah. He's gonna be playing Jon Stewart.
Makes sense.
And it's kind of cool because how Jordan is gonna also be in that movie, as is supposedly Guy Gardner. Which is interesting.
How are they doing that? Is it like
they've all been around at the same time in the comics?
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. Usually there's like a single lantern on Earth. So are they on Earth at all?
I don't know. Maybe. But I mean,
wait,
the lanterns.
Nathan Fillion is playing Guy Gardner?
He is.
Oh, I'm a little more interested in this.
So he also showed up in the Superman trailer as Guy Gardner.
Oh, did he? Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. For a fucking super brief second.
Well,
with the most laughable bold cut you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for that movie because Aaron Pierre, he was amazing in Rebel Ridge. That was one of the first Netflix movies I've seen in a long time that actually like reminded me of old school Netflix originals, because it's a Netflix original movie. And it also has Don Johnson in it, and it was actually super fucking good. Like it like it's an action movie, so like I wasn't expecting but so much from it, you know. Because action movies are either hit or miss. Either they're good,
you're not
or
lying.
they're not.
You
You either
are
love
not
them, you hate
lying
them.
about
And
the
so, like,
bullshit.
I dude, isn't it fucking hilarious?
Alrighty.
But yeah, so he was amazing in Rebel Ridge. So I will, if the Superman movie ends up being bad, I'll hold out for Lanterns, I think is what they're calling it. At least that's the working title right now. I'll hold out for that, and if that ends up dropping the ball, then I'll watch them if I stumble upon them, but I'm gonna stop putting any stock into those movies. But I think Aaron will at least carry that movie for sure. But yeah, there's been plenty of stories where all 3 of those lanterns were active at the same time. So I don't know the process behind that, because I'm not super familiar with the Green Lanterns. I had always assumed how Jordan's ring ends up becoming Jon Stewart's is what I thought.
I don't know. It's comics, right? So there's like 3 or 4 different stories to follow that gets them to X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Guy Gardner is usually, I think, depicted as being a bad guy. Not always, but like he's a superhero, but he's like, if a Green Lantern's gonna do something bad, it's usually him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to think about that he kind of has always looked kind of dopey, but he's like a redhead, not a blonde, and so that bowl cut being blonde just made it look awful. He doesn't normally, I wouldn't say his hair is a bowl cut either. I'd say he's got like an Edgar cut. But his
Edgar
hair,
Allan Poe me another drink.
yeah, but his hair's straight. That or he'll have like a I think it's called a Caesar or something, where the sides are like faded, and then the top is just like a like flat top.
Caesar Milano.
Yeah, that might not be a Caesar. That might be a flat top. I don't know. I'm not very good with haircuts, as you can tell. I think that DC has a really good opportunity now that they're restarting to move into a more adult space and to walk away from being like mediocre. I think Marvel doesn't really do the adult thing very well. They have one film that I would say fits into that category, and that's Deadpool versus Wolverine. Or is it verse, or it's Deadpool and Wolverine? Whatever.
I think, yeah, it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
That movie is like a comedy though. It's like haha funny. We said the F word.
It is a fucking comedy. That's true.
I think DC could be a very serious R-rated film universe. You know, with the Batman film they just dropped.
Batman stuff almost definitely should always be R-rated.
Well, and this most recent Batman we got was phenomenal. I think it's R, is it not? We need to be DC, not we. DC needs to be playing around in that realm.
The Batman was PG-13.
Wow. It was pretty dark for being PG-13. Both in atmosphere and lighting. I could never see shit in that movie. I think they need to stop tiptoeing the line between PG-13 and R, and they need to just lean into the R-rated stuff. I want to see a brutal Superman. I want to see a Superman that vaporizes people with his laser eyes. I want to see him rip someone in half. Like, could you imagine like a gory Superman movie and how good that would be? Like, I want to see Superman put his arm through a person. Like, can we get that, please?
So, but here's the problem, though. Superman doesn't commonly do that. So you'd have to...
But...
You'd have to do that as, like, the third or fourth movie in his series. Or it could be, like, a one-off.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, it could be even something like he did it by accident. He didn't understand how strong he was. Yada yada, etc., etc. I want to see like gritty DC. I don't want to see they're trying to do like the hee hee ha ha thing that Marvel does, but they're also trying to be like more adult and like we're for adults sort of thing at the same time. And the entire DCU that we had was dog shit because of it.
True.
I guess the Aquaman movie was good. I didn't even watch it though because everything else I had seen was just trash.
I haven't seen either.
I will
Aquaman
say
movies.
Man of Steel was pretty good, I think.
I liked Man of Steel.
I think the final
he snapped
fight,
someone's neck in that, so that was cool.
Yeah, I think the final fight between Shazam and Mordecai or whatever the fuck that dude's name is. I think that was that was basically just the General Zod versus Superman fight, by the way, but little. But I think that fight was better because they had some comedy in there. But I feel like Superman is so insanely powerful that they are afraid to like give him power, if that makes sense. I think
it does.
I think Justice League and I mean, I think they did an okay job like scaling him, but like I don't know. I still feel like we could really see like a crazy like strong Superman, and I still think we could see some villains doing some actual like heinous shit that's just like, damn, I can't believe they even made this in the movie. Like think about like the Dark Knight, right? Like Joker blows a fucking hospital up just as like a prank. Like he went to go give Harvey Dent a fucking gun.
Yeah.
And
bust him
then
out.
and then he walks out and he's just all like nonchalant and like woo, and he blows. Like that was like excellent, right? And then think about like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, at least in the first film. The fact that he's like, you know, that's an R-rated film. It's very dark, and like he goes up and like he shoots Murray or whatever, and it's just one of those things that it's just like, damn, he did that on live television. Like that's crazy. Like we don't have enough of those type of moments in the DC franchise, and I think instead of trying to be like Marvel, they should lean into that more.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think they needed to stop being scared to do
Exactly.
one-off
They were scared.
movies.
They were scared to do one-off movies, and I think they're gonna suffer from the same problem, but they need to stop doing these movies. They're trying to catch up to Marvel's MCU and just have too many characters, and they're still doing this, and I really think they need to stop.
Dude, yeah, they didn't learn their fucking lesson the first go round. Like, we already talked about this, so I'll like breeze by it. But I mean, they dropped Man of Steel, and then they were like, "Shit, Man of Steel versus or Superman versus Batman," and then
Second
they were like,
movie in the
immediately
franchise,
after that, third movie, Justice League.
Where's the
There
Batman
was
movie?
like, there was like there was like a 6 or 7 movie and 10-year build up to the Avengers. And they did that all within like a 3-year time span, or tried, and it failed.
I don't think it was 10 years. I think Avengers came out in like 2010 or something like that, 2011, maybe 2012. But I think there was Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and then Avengers, right? So like, I don't think there was actually that much buildup. But
You know what? Maybe it was 10 years in between Avengers 1 and Infinity War. Like maybe the Infinity Saga was 10 years.
yeah, but
That okay, I think that's where the 10-year came from.
but it you know, each phase or whatever had enough films of like standalone films where they would have like little pieces that like if you missed it, it wasn't a big deal. But if you saw it, it's like, oh, this is setting up this next thing in the next film, or this set up that, or oh, I remember this happening in that film, and that's why this is this way. And so it was like breadcrumbs almost. But the fact that they set it up in a way that it felt like they had a plan. DC felt like, oh, we don't have a plan. We don't know what we're doing. We're trying to copy Marvel, and we're trying to copy their success, and we're just doing it the same as them, but we're trying to do it faster because we're trying to catch up to like take their momentum. And I don't know. I feel like if they hadn't gone into like an MCU, like not a let me rephrase that. If they hadn't tried to follow the MCU and make a cinematic universe, I think they would have been fine making one-off films.
I think they would have been as well.
Like if they had made a Superman movie, even if they made a Superman trilogy and they had no spillover of any other DC heroes, I think it would have been absolutely fine. Like look at the Christopher Nolan, franchise, right? Like that's a trilogy. And it's phenomenal. And
highly regarded.
Who's in there? There's Batman, almost a Robin, and there's like 5 villains.
Yeah.
Solid trilogy. And then they don't show up in any other films. No one else shows up in their films. It would have been fine. I think if DC had kept that formula of making like maybe a trilogy of Superman, trilogy of Wonder Woman, I think they would have been fine. But they were just trying to copy Marvel so much, and they were late to the game, and they did it poorly.
Yeah, exactly. And then they had a FOMO, so then they started rushing to try to like recreate the success. And so here's what's funny. So I just looked at the numbers. The Dark Knight trilogy did phenomenal, by the way.
Of course.
In 2005, Batman Begins drops. That only grossed only 300 million.
The weakest film.
The Dark Knight, which dropped in 2008, grossed $1 billion. And The Dark Knight Rises, which came out in 2012, also grossed $1 billion. But if you look at those numbers, 2008, 2012, Iron Man 1 came out in 2008. The Avengers came out in 2012. So they were wrapping up that trilogy, which wasn't even in their cycle of movies.
Right.
And Marvel had just dropped their big team up movie. And so when did Man of Steel came out shortly after Dark Knight Rises?
I think it was like it felt like it was like 2015, but I want to say it was much earlier than that. 2012 maybe?
2013.
Oh, it was 2013? Okay.
2013, yeah. So the first movie setting up their franchise, their universe, came out the year after the Avengers. So they were already behind.
Do you have the numbers for how the Avengers how well did the Avengers perform versus Dark Knight Rises?
The first Avengers did 1.5 billion. And so it did 500 million more.
Okay, but for a superhero movie to hit $1 billion is kind of crazy.
True.
I mean, maybe not anymore, but like at the time it was like, whoa. And DC did it back to back. How many other Marvel films hit $1 billion before Avengers? I don't know if any of them did. Maybe one of them.
I don't think any of them did until Black Panther.
Let's see. Avengers. It says 11 films have done it. The first Avengers, Iron Man 3, Age of Ultron, Captain America Civil War, Black Panther, Infinity War, 3. Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Far From Home, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Deadpool and Wolverine. So before the Avengers, none of their films hit $1 billion.
Nope.
And after that, only Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron in phase 2 hit. And I guess is Civil War? I don't know. I wouldn't call Civil War is part of phase 3, right? I don't know how the phases are broken up, but I believe that's phase 3. Phase 4 ends with Endgame, right?
It's usually about like 7-ish movies, depending. The last phase got a little funky.
Yeah, it's been kind of funky. So it's important to note that DC was making Batman films that were hitting $1 billion. They made them back to back, hit $1 billion. And then it took Marvel 5 films to get the same success on. I mean, granted, the Avengers made more than Batman, but it took them 5 films to set it up instead of 3.
Exactly. All they had to do was keep doing the formula they had.
Yeah.
And it would have done fine.
Well, and they saw that and they're like, oh, it outdid Batman. We better fucking copy them. And Man of Steel, I think, did okay. Like, I think it was an okay film. I don't think it was a bad film. It wasn't a great film. It's not something I'm like, hey, let's go watch Man of Steel.
It did. Evidently not. So it looks like internationally it only did 379 million. So it did about what Batman Begins did. I mean, that's still amazing in terms of movies, but in comparison.
Well,
so
when you're only hitting the budget of Snow White for your movie to come out, you're just not making it, it's not happening. I don't know how the budget on. Oh, actually, I do. It's the fucking CGI dwarfs.
So Batman versus Superman did much better. The worldwide gross of that was 874 million. So still not $1 billion.
Guess who was there that made that do better, by the way?
Benjamin.
It had less to do with Ben Affleck and more to do with Batman. I know that Superman's like the poster child for DC. But you talk to almost anyone and they're going to tell you that Batman is their favorite DC character, not Superman. Which is fine. They just made a Batman trilogy, but they went one film without having Batman in it. And I don't know. I think Nolan was originally going to do another Batman film and he declined. So that may have something to do with their shift.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I think he was supposed to. This is just. I haven't actually confirmed this, but I believe I remember something saying that he was going to do a fourth film, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt was going to be Robin or whatever, and that fell through somehow. I think Christian Bale was tired of doing Batman, because it took a lot for him to do that, and then he just wanted to do other things, I believe.
Understandably so.
That makes sense, but I want to say that there was going to be a fourth one, so maybe that would have come out after Man of Steel, but then it kind of got scrapped, so they tried to like fix whatever. What if Ben
Justice
Affleck?
League.
What if Ben Affleck's Batman was supposed to be Christian Bale?
That would have been crazy. Justice League made 660. Well, the gross profit was 661 million. It made 361 million though, because the production budget was 300 mil. Yeah, so 600 million. So, since the Dark Knight trilogy, they have not been able to hit $1 billion. But they could have easily started doing it, especially if they would have handled their movies better. So what did I say? So 600 mil for Justice League. Yeah, it literally made less than Batman versus Superman because of how they handled Batman versus Superman.
It's honestly ridiculous that they fumbled it so many times. You got to think,
still aren't learning from their mistakes.
You have to think Marvel's making films about fucking Ant-Man. Before the Ant-Man movies came out, if you told me they were making an Ant-Man movie, I'd be like, huh? Ant-Man? You're picking Ant-Man to make a movie about? You've got Vision, you've got Captain Marvel, you've got all sorts of fucking characters, and you're making a movie about fucking Ant-Man? Are you for real? And
they're actually doing that with all their movies. Like they're bringing people who aren't like they're bringing characters,
like little characters.
Yeah, and making hella money with them.
And that's the crazy part, is because it's like, oh, well, they already have a good track record. They're already making good films. Let's go see this. I want to see how this plays out. And then they do the characters really well in most cases. Captain Marvel is a fucking cunt. And I don't think Captain Marvel's character in the comics acts like that. She's not a stuck-up douchehead.
So Shang-Chi brought in 432 million,
which
so
I never
Shang-Chi
even
didn't do as good.
Well, I never even heard of Shang-Chi before that was even a thing. So like, I don't know. They pull in other characters. There's like a hair or something right here on my face that's long. I got it. Shang-Chi is one of those characters that I'd never even heard of before the movie was announced. And that's fine. But, you know, you got to think Marvel played it so well that they can put a character like Shang-Chi that no one's heard of, I think. Maybe people have heard of him. I don't know. I hadn't, so I'm just going to assume everyone else hasn't also, because everyone lives the same exact life that I live.
Yeah, you're the going standard. Exactly.
Exactly. And then Ant-Man, the fuck? You tell me you're making an Ant-Man movie, and I'm just like, why? You've got Marvel, who's doing successful movies with those sort of characters. And then you have DC, who's like, hey, we're going to do Aquaman, which I would put in the same category as Ant-Man. Like, you've got Green Lantern. You've got Batman. You've got Superman. Like, who are you going to make a movie about next? Apache Chief? Like, come on, dude. Like, fucking Aquaman. Like, I know in the Justice League, like, in the, like, old cartoon and stuff, like, he's kind of got some prestige, but, like, think about him as a hero. Like, I'm sorry if you like Aquaman, but like, I can swim and I can talk to fish. Ooh, cool powers, dude.
Put some fucking respect on the King of Atlantis' name.
Dude, he's got no powers. I mean, technically he has like super strength, and like he's got
more powers than Batman.
Batman doesn't have any powers other than money, which might be the only power you need. Money and prep time anyway. I don't know. Aquaman's one of those heroes that it's like, those are your powers? Yeah, okay, dude. What are you gonna do? The fucking aliens are invading there in the sky. What are you gonna do? You gonna fucking
Yeah.
have your dolphins swim up into the sky and fucking slap them or something? Like, okay. Dolphins aren't fish either, I don't think. I believe they are mammals, so I don't. Can he talk to dolphins? How strict is the talk to fish thing? It's like, I think he can communicate with whales, but those are not fish. Sharks are fish. Whales are not.
I think in the comics he's depicted as communicating with all that stuff.
With sea creatures.
Yeah.
That might be the distinction. Maybe it's just sea creatures. Not fish, but I've shorthanded it to fish. But I don't know. It's like his power seems kind of whack, kind of like Ant-Man, but I don't know. So I guess Jason Momoa's Aquaman actually did pretty well. But it's one of those things that like the track record's not there to be putting characters like Aquaman out, I don't think. It's like Shazam, for instance. Shazam's one of those characters which the timing of them putting a Shazam movie out when Captain Marvel came out. When did Captain, can we get a fact check here? When did Captain Marvel come out versus when did Shazam come out? And do you know about the controversy between those two characters?
I do, because Shazam used to be called Captain Marvel.
Right.
Ironically.
Yes.
So Captain Marvel came out in 2019.
Okay.
And Shazam has to be around the same 2019.
All right. For those of you who don't know, DC had Superman, right? He's a Man of Steel. He's very strong. He fly. He do all these super cool powers. He's OP. Marvel looked at that and they said, we need a character like that. So they made Captain Marvel. And they made him just like Superman. And DC looked at them and was like, that's Superman. What the fuck? And so they sued Marvel. And long story short, Marvel surrendered Captain Marvel to DC. And DC's like, well, we're not going to keep this character named Captain Marvel because that's stupid. Why would we have Marvel as one of our characters? So like, you can keep the name Captain Marvel. We're just going to turn this guy.
Branding.
Yeah, we're going to just turn this guy into Shazam now. So now we've got a Superman clone from Marvel who's migrated to DC, now being called Shazam. And they're like, you can still have Captain Marvel's name. We don't want that because it's Marvel. But make the character different. And so they made Captain Marvel. I think that's when they switched Captain Marvel to being female. And then they changed what her powers were. Basically still Superman. But it's interesting that those two films released. I'm surprised that they even made a Shazam film, honestly. Prior to the Shazam film coming out, when someone said Shazam, I was thinking of that I think it was a Shaq film. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Called like just Shazam or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's Shaq. I might be racist there. Yeah, with Shaq. Yep. And he's like a genie.
No, it's Sinbad. Right? Or no?
Oh, it's called Kazam. So it's actually called Kazam, but when you would say Shazam, that's what I would think of.
Yeah.
Was the Shaq movie. And then people started saying Shazam, and I was like, what the fuck is Shazam? Okay, so the Shaq one's called Kazam, and I was like, oh yeah, Kazam. And then I guess because it's Shaq and Kazam, that is Shazam in my brain. I don't know. That came out in '98. Okay, don't fault me for that. That's what I would think of if you said Shazam. But it's kind of funny because there's this old show called Freakazoid, which was about a cartoon character who, when he would say Freakazoid or whatever, he'd turn into Freakazoid, which is pretty much the same thing as Shazam. But he was more like the Flash than he was like Superman. But I don't know. It's one of those things that I feel like they could have done so much better things. I don't know who was in charge of making up the ideas for the stories that they put out, but I
think it was collectively just 6 old guys that were making the comics. They would all take turns doing cocaine and then just taking their turn at writing a story. That's the way some of this shit feels.
Who does Frank Miller work for? Is that his name?
Yes, I think he's done a lot of them do stuff with both. So Frank Miller did DC stuff.
Okay, he did do DC stuff. All right,
but he's also done Daredevil.
Well,
so
right.
he's done really good Daredevil stories, but he did the Dark Knight Returns, which is the series I was talking about with DC. Obviously, that was really good.
I feel like they should have let him write some more stuff. Okay, so he had a Wolverine book. He's had some Daredevil books and some Batman books. Oh, he wrote Year One. Okay, makes sense.
Holy shit, he kind of looks like Patrick. I've never seen what he looks like. That is so funny.
I know which picture you're looking at with the hat on.
Ironically, no, it's this picture. Hold on, I'll send it to you. That is so funny.
This is you guys don't know who Patrick is, but it's fine.
He does. Yeah, it looks like Patrick right there too. It's funny.
What else did he write?
He also did Sin City. Fun fact.
True. He wrote Ronin, which is that Ninja Turtles one. Right? I think that's that one.
Ronin.
No,
is
sorry. Not that one. It's not. It's a different one. My bad. It's a different story. It's actually about an actual samurai guy, not the Ninja Turtles, I think. I'm just looking at titles, not pictures. So my bad. But he worked on 300, the movie. I think he's the one who sort of shaped Batman into being the Dark Knight and giving him that more gritty portrayal, I think, for the most part. Not that Batman wasn't already referred to as the Dark Knight prior to that, but I think like when most people say the Dark Knight, they're talking about Frank Miller's version of Batman.
Yeah.
So I feel like he should have had more. I don't know. I guess he's never done a Superman, but I feel like they could have maybe consulted him a little more on their DCU. I also don't think the DCU was a good idea in the first place, and definitely not the way they did it. I think the story in that DC MMO was better.
Holy shit.
than the story in whatever. Did you ever play that game?
I did.
Unfortunate.
DCUO?
Yeah.
About that?
Yeah.
That is unfortunate for them. What a slap in the face.
What is the DC? It's the DCU, right? The DCCU? Is there 2 C's? The DC Cinematic Universe? How do you shorten that? I keep saying DCU, but I guess there's a C missing there.
I don't know what they refer to it as, actually.
Anyways, point is, they've continuously fumbled, and they need to figure that shit out. Hopefully, we'll see how these new movies coming out go. I have low expectations. Hopefully, I'll be happily impressed. What is that? Is that the term?
Yeah. Probably not. You're a tough critic.
True. If I'm disappointed though, I might just be throwing the towel in and giving up on DC entirely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
It sucks though, because growing up, DC was my favorite. I didn't even like Marvel because DC was so good. Like The Flash was good, Batman's good. Like there was that Batman animated cartoon that was so good. There was the Justice League animated cartoon that was really good. I wouldn't go back and watch those anyway, though. They're not that great. They were really good at the time, though. I would watch the Batman show. Then there was Batman Beyond. That was amazing. And then they started turning out shows like Ezra Miller's The Flash.
Yeah,
Shame.
it is a shame. I think I've always been more of a Marvel fan, but I mean, I do still have my love for DC. But yeah, at least in terms of the movies, like I said, if I happen to stumble upon them, I'll watch them. I'm not gonna per se actively avoid them, but I'm not gonna actively see them.
Yeah, maybe that. It'll just be
Like I said, up until Lanterns, I'm giving them at least until Lanterns. So if the Superman movie crashes and burns, I think that's it in terms of what they have planned. At least that's announced that I know of.
but
We
like
have
you
the
said,
Superman movie.
I mean,
and
they've
then
got
the
they've got
Lanterns
James Gunn doing it, and he's done good work recently.
one. Yeah, he's had more hits than misses, I think. They should
Although,
have him do a really dark DC movie because I mean I know he's like the Kevin Feige of DC, but he did Slither, which was a pretty interesting horror movie.
that's true. The thing about that though is I feel like maybe DC's better at not DC. I'm sorry. Maybe Marvel's just better at casting people. Maybe it has nothing to do with the writers or the directors. Maybe it has only to do with the casting. So I don't feel like there's a single character in the MCU that's miscast.
Well, you don't like what's her face as Captain Marvel?
Well, I don't like
I'll
Brie
say that's
Larson
at
in
least
general.
one.
I don't think
That's what I'm saying. That's so yeah.
so
So that would be
here's
a
the thing.
miscast, would it not?
Nah, I don't think her case. I don't like Brie Larson, but I don't think in her case the problem is Brie Larson. I think it's how they wrote her character. So
Okay.
I don't think she was miscast. And then played the part wrong. I think she played the part they wanted, the way they wanted her to. I just think they wrote Captain Marvel like a pompous douchebag, and what can you do? I think,
Dude. So we talked about the Blade stuff a little bit, and then so I'll say this, and then we can move on to the next topic. But because we side railed again.
of course,
So Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther and also Creed and also Sinners that we've
Right.
talked about.
Yeah.
They asked him who is his favorite black vampire, and he said Blade. So I wonder, which I think they do have their director now.
are there other black vampires?
I don't think there really is much other to pull from. But I think they have the director, but if they end up losing the director again, they should get him to direct it, and he should cast Michael B. Jordan as Blade. There you go. There's your Blade movie. Because Ryan Coogler has had hit after hit after hit.
How does that fit in the MCU though?
The same way other recasts have
Dude,
worked.
it's the multiverse. Yeah,
I mean,
just it's the multiverse. Just reuse all the same actors again. It'll be fine.
he can't look like Killmonger, obviously, but I mean, Blade's usually depicted as having like either bald head or like I
Just
think
never
after
take your
Wesley
sunglasses off.
Snipes, exactly, never take the sunglasses off. Do the facial hair like Blade has, which I don't even think he always is depicted as having facial hair. I know Wesley Snipes had facial hair, and Wesley Snipes had like the flat top. But otherwise, I think typically Blade's depicted as being bald and with like a soul patch or something like that.
Yeah.
And he has like the tattoos and stuff. So there you go. I don't know. I really hope we get that Blade movie. I think it's gonna be good. Final topic, because this fucking blew my mind when I read it. Toys R Us is getting a live action movie.
Oh yeah. You thought it was bad when we were adapting books to movies. Some said it was crazy when we started adapting video games to movies. But now we're adapting failed retail chains into movies.
Exactly. So
Everyone
it's
claps. The crowd goes wild. And a better idea has never been ideaed.
It's a live action movie made by the Toys R Us studios, which is a thing, evidently.
Hell yeah, dude.
And it's supposed to be along the lines of Night at the Museum and Big.
So it's Toy Story.
Essentially.
Okay.
I guess.
I
don't know. That movie's gonna flop.
A Toys R Us movie is insane. That's like an insane. It's like when you're talking about like a card pull. It's an insane card pull. If anyone had that on their bingo card, congratulations. That's the entire bingo right there. You won the grand prize, the lottery. Who would have ever fathomed to make a movie about that or guessed that was coming out? Now, if it was like a documentary or something about like the rise and fall of the retail chain, like sure, maybe that's cool. The fact that it's a movie that's gonna be like small soldiers, I guess, is kind of weird. What if they just remake Small Soldiers? That's basically all you need to do.
I loved that movie when I was a little kid.
Same. That was such a good movie.
That's releasing in 4K, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Very soon.
I need to get that then because the kids have never seen it.
Oh, that would be sick for them.
Yeah, it would be. Dude, I don't know, man. Toys R Us movie. What's next? A GameStop movie? A fucking what's that? I'm trying to think of some stores names and I just can't. I'm blanking all of them.
Let's get a Netflix movie.
Yeah,
And-
Netflix movie. No, dude, we need a fucking Walmart movie.
Actually, you know what? Hold on.
We need a Best Buy movie. We need a TJ Maxx movie for the girls. We need the little TJ Maxx movie for the girls.
True.
Need
Hey,
a
fuck
fucking.
you. I like TJ Maxx. What's wrong with TJ Maxx?
We need a Ross movie, a fucking Kohl's movie, dude. Why don't we just make a whole mall movie?
Honestly, yeah.
Dude, it sounds like such a fucking meme that there's gonna be a Toys R Us movie. It's so ridiculous.
It does sound like a meme. So I didn't realize this, or if I did, I definitely had forgotten it. So in 2018, they closed all Toys R Us stores.
Right.
Like during COVID / like towards the end of COVID, they started reopening them.
Right. It was the triumphant return of Toys R Us.
Yeah.
None of the ones near me reopened. Not a single one.
Same.
I actually, funny enough, I used to shop at Toys R Us pretty frequently because they sold video games.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people didn't realize that they sold video games. So when a new game would come out, everyone would be at GameStop and I would just go to fucking Toys R Us and there was never a line. There was never anyone there. I wonder why they closed. And I would go pick up my fucking video game at Toys R Us because there's no one there. There's never a wait.
Yeah. 200 IQ move.
Yeah, 200 IQ move. Go buy your games at the dying retail chain. That should have been a clue to anyone that they were failing and that the industry was kind of failing. Toys R Us had really expensive toys. They were good toys though, I think, for the most part. I remember going to a Toys R Us. My aunt gave me $100 one year for my birthday. And then she took me to Toys R Us. And I wanted to buy some Pokemon toys. And I went over and I grabbed like 10 of them because they were like $10 each. And somehow we did the math and we figured that I could actually only buy like 6 of them. And I was like, that's not worth it to me because they were like $12 or something. And then you do the math, 12 times 6 is whatever the fuck that's 72 or whatever. Then you add the tax. And then I don't know. It was too much for my little brain because I was like 8. And their toys never got cheaper ever. I remember going through there and looking at action figures, being like, "Oh, dude, I want to buy all these action figures," and they're like $20. And like, I think
Yeah.
$20 is an okay price for an action figure now, today, in today's economy. But they were $20 back in like 2007. You know, they
Yeah.
were $20 back in 2003. The funny thing about Toys R Us though is they had a like a sister company called Babies R Us. And
yeah, they did.
that place was also expensive, but I'm gonna be honest, having that available to me when I had just had Aaron was pretty lit. They had everything you needed for a baby. These days you have to go to Target, I think, to find anything, and Target doesn't have everything, right? And then there was like what was that other company, Bed Bath Beyond? They had I think they had some chain also that was baby stuff. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like Bed Bath and Beyond, and then they had their sister store, which was whatever baby store. And
You
both
should just called it Beyond.
yeah, I don't remember what it was called. But you got to think, those were two brick and mortar retail stores that sold baby stuff, and neither of them exist anymore. So
Yeah.
if you have a baby today, where do you buy shit for babies? You have to go to Target. Like, you have to. There's no other stores.
Walmart has baby sections.
The shit at Walmart, the baby shit at Walmart is ass. I mean, if it's all you can afford, it'll get you by. But like, the quality is not great, and then the selection is not great either. They don't have as much as like most Walmarts don't have a big enough selection like Target does.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, the quality is not there. I mean, most things at Walmart, the quality is not there. It's Walmart. I'm trying to think where, like, there's Target, there's Walmart, there's not really anywhere else. Like, maybe a regular grocery store you could get wipes or something, but like, babies need a lot of stuff. You need cribs, you need car seats, you need like little play jungle gym things.
I think
fucking
Amazon put a lot of things out of business because you can get whatever shipped to your fucking door.
Right, but Amazon's not at the point where you could go to a store today and buy what you need today.
True.
Oh, I forgot this thing. Let me just go to the brick and mortar shop, retail store, and buy it. It might be overpriced, but I get it today. Amazon,
True.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can get same day on Amazon. Not everything though. And I think that's Amazon murdered those stores, but the fact that there's nowhere for babies to shop is crazy. Poor babies.
That is crazy.
Poor little babies.
Yeah.
They just want to be buying their cribs and their diapers.
I don't know how many locations exist. I think it's like under 50. I think it's like within like the teens. But they started. So there's 24. Okay.
Oh yeah.
There's 24 flagship Toys R Us stores. There's 452 Toys R Us in Macy's. They have some on cruise ships and in airports.
I don't think we have a
And they
Macy's
also
anymore.
have some. True. They also have some in Navy Exchange stores called Nextcom.
All right.
There's one in the mall near me, evidently. Not like my local mall, but a mall not that far off.
Hell yeah. I think I still have a Macy's at one of the malls here. There's technically 4 malls here. Although if you ask me how many malls there were, I'd say there's 3. And of those 3, there's really only 2. And that's a really complicated thing that I don't want to explain. But basically, for all intents and purposes, where I live has 2 malls. And really, out of the 2 malls, there's really only 1 mall that's worth going to. So really, we only have 1 mall here. So the whole thing is 3 of the malls are across the street from each other. So like 3 of them are concentrated within a square mile.
Yeah.
And it's kind of silly because like you could park at one and you could walk to the other one, but it's just far enough. Like, mall parking lots are huge. it's just far enough that you probably were going to drive anyway. But you could technically go to all three of those malls at the same time. And then there's one on the other side of the city that's kind of small and by itself. And the problem with the malls is malls are well, I keep saying malls are dying because they have been dying. But every time I say that, people always correct me and they're like, oh no, malls are doing great. They're thriving. The mall near me is doing amazing. And it's like, okay, well, the malls around me are not doing amazing. But that's not entirely true because the where the three malls are, that little like cluster, all three of those malls are doing pretty decent. There's good traffic there. Anyway, but it's just funny to me to think that Toys R Us, which wasn't necessarily even a mall store, it was usually near malls, is now reopening in malls. We need more mall stores. Can we get Babies R Us back, please? I don't actually have babies, so never mind. But
no, fuck it. Let's get some Babies R Us.
Exactly. We've deviated quite far from the Toys R Us movie. Have they announced casting at all?
No, I think it just recently got announced in general.
Hell yeah. And what would prompt someone, in your thoughts, to make a movie like Night at the Museum in Toys R Us that's live action?
Heavy LSD usage.
They're doing it with Story Kitchen.
True, who has a good track record, so it might end up not being complete and total ass. Maybe.
The film, which is in early development, aims to capture that childhood wonder in a modern, fast-paced adventure that taps into the Toys R Us brand's relevance across its more than 70 years in the toy industry. Bro, is there gonna be a fucking drum or nah? Rum-pa-pum-pum, I drum on my drum. Here comes the fucking giraffe guy. What was his name? Jeffrey?
Richard.
Yeah, Richard the giraffe guy. You know, I actually had one of those Toys R Us giraffes. And when he pressed his little thing, he'd sing some, what were the words exactly? I think it was, I'm so happy to be a Toys R Us kid or some shit like that.
He probably, yeah. Probably that.
Hell yeah.
You want to wrap it there?
No, we're gonna keep talking forever. All right. In 3, 2, 1, we're ending. Goodbye. Say your last words. All right, I cut it. I'm just kidding. Say the last words.
Good night.
No, you have to.
Love you guys.
No, you're supposed to say.
See you next episode.
Yeah, you're supposed to say
episode
what?
5.
Was this episode 5? Hold on. Now I'm doubting it. Now I'm doubting it. Hold on.
Doubt it all you want. It's episode 5.
I'm doubting Thomas.
Stuck between a rock and a bald spot.
Wait, is it Doubting Thomas?
I don't know. It's Robert Downey Jr.
Was Tom? Well, so that term's a biblical term, right? Because like the expression I'm using about doubting Thomas.
Who the fuck's Thomas?
One of the disciples, I think. Is it Thomas? I don't. Maybe it's not Thomas. It's I don't know. I'm not doing a very good job Christianing tonight. All right. Anyways,
you're not.
That was episode 5 of Stuck Between a Bald Rock and a Place.
With spots.
Yeah, with spots. I guess we should say the actual title correctly, right?
Yeah. Episode 5 of Stuck Between a Rock and a Bald Spot.
I think the actual expression is stuck between a rock and a hard place. That's why I said place.